Hi guys, how's everybody doing? Hopefully you all seeing and hearing me well. All right, a lot of thumbs up. Good afternoon, happy Saturday. Welcome to December, the end of year season. I'm afraid to say Christmas, Erika, we ought to be afraid to say Christmas. All right, so let's get this thing going. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, they're quiet for now, Dale. Don't worry, I'll get them going. Hi, Natasha. Hey, Padmini. Hey, Rika. Hopefully, you all see my screen well. Nice. Now, don't be afraid. Video on unless you'll lie down in bed, wrap up in the blanket and your pillow over your head. All right. I definitely like to have some mics on. I'll be asking a lot of questions. All right. And of course, if the video's on as well, that's great. I'll bring you on the stage too. Because we are gonna have some discussion and I'm gonna be asking a lot of questions. All right. So I'll definitely be your tormentor for the next 3 hours. And we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. Of course, there's so many things to talk about with regard to people analytics, right? And, just today, I want to walk through the core processes, right? From, data collection all the way through to data storytelling. So I want to touch on all the bases. And a lot of these things we would have been covering within the webinar series that we had in September and October. So we would have touched on some of those things, but I want to ensure that we at least come away with some skills that we understand how to think like people analytics professionals. We are able to do some calculations, look at some metrics, and be able to decipher, what's happening with our workforce. All right. So let me get this thing going. Of course, what we're gonna talk about today, just have a couple points here. Of course, we will talk about the people analytics mindset. What is this all about? We're gonna look at HR data collection now. That really starts the whole thing, right? Where are we getting data from? How do we plan to use it, etc. We want to look at some HR metrics, nothing too big and fancy, because there's so many metrics out there. But I will have a chat about that with regard to getting lost in metrics and using metrics wisely. That's really the tip of the day. All right. Forging HR data visualization. How do we convert what we find into data visualization, into visual elements that can enhance the message, make the message more impactful and effective? And how do we use that to build a narrative, to build a story, to be able to speak the language? All right. How do we convert this into something meaningful that could help our decision makers, make the best decision possible? And then, of course, how do we bring all of these steps together to have this complete package in terms of how we think and how we operate as people analytics professionals? Yeah. Yes, definitely. Only use the ones that you can use. There's so many metrics out there. I think from my research and from my experience, there are about 175 plus metrics out there that captures all the areas of the employee life cycle. But to tell the truth, in all the years that I've been working with HR data and metrics and these things, they only probably maybe about 25 that you might be using across the board, right? So you, and then of course, listen, you have variations, right, Natasha? So like, we look at turnover, yes, but turnover in itself will have variance. So we'll drill down. We'll have turnover by department, turnover by division, turnover by employee type, and stuff like that. So the drill downs are really what become more relevant for the organization, because when we're looking at analytics, we are looking at solving certain problems. And some of those problems are highlighted within segments of the organization rather than the entire organization itself. All right. So yeah. You do make sense. That's a real good point. So thanks for sharing. All right. So if you all check the folder, let me see if I get that link again and share it with you all. The folder that I created, unlocking the power of people analytics. Let me just grab that link and I'll toss it here. I'll toss it in the chat. So what I did, I actually put up all the files that we're gonna be using. Let me pull that up on the window. You'll also see it here. Where is it? Here we go. So we have a couple of files that I had put up. Now I haven't put up the slides yet, because those slides have some secret sauce in them I can't share just yet. All right, I'll actually throw it up after we finish our session today. So we have Flavorcraft data. I have an Excel workbook in there, right? I have a Power BI file, and I have some Power BI measurements, right, that I shared. So you could go on that folder on Google Drive and pull those files. So Flavorcraft is our company of the day. And for everyone in the room, you have been recently hired. You're seeing me on camera, guys? I just seeing that my camera kind of turned off or it turned black. Just let me know. Not sure why that one kicked off there. But you've been recently hired as an HR analyst with Flavorcraft. Oh, you see me well? Okay. Or just my pick? Oh, just a minute. Let me just turn off the video and start it back up. See. There we go. Think we're back up now. Think I'm back up. Right? And so you've been hired with Flavorcraft. So right now, everyone in the room has been oh, y'all not see me? Okay, that's fine. I think it'll kick back in a minute because I'm seeing myself now. I think I got it fixed. Right? Yeah. So you've been recently hired as an HR analytics professional at HR Craft Manufacturing, right? And with this organization, when you got hired, they shared that Excel workbook with you, right? And this is basically data that they have in their current systems. So they've just shared all that data with you. This is your first couple of weeks within the job. So, we're basically going to be going through some exercises with that data to explore and figure out what's going on with Flavorcraft. All right, so this will be our company of the day, and we're gonna start exploring the data. So if you all go into that folder and you actually pull up the Excel workbook, you'll see I have a couple of worksheets with different data, and we will be exploring this data and trying to figure out what's going on with the workforce, understand some metrics, create some stuff. So we're gonna have some fun with Excel in a little bit. All right. So let's jump in next. What is the people analytics mindset? Right? When we talk about this, it's all about shifting. Where do you all see people analytics as a role within companies? And okay, aside from what's in the slide, let me kind of pull it back then. What does the people analytics mindset mean to you when somebody says you need to adopt the people analytics mindset? Yeah? What is that all about? What do you all think is the people analytics mindset all about? See if I get some responses on the chat. Or you all could jump on the mic. Either way is fine. I'm not seeing my chat feed for now. It just kind of jumped out of there. Let me see if I can get. There we go. Just came back up. If you look at the bottom, Francis, everybody they could unmute their mics and stuff, right? Or do I need to bring them up on the stage? All right, I guess we could work with the chat for now. All right, so we're looking for proof. Can you help find the proof we need to make a case? Yeah, Natasha. Everything, yes, Rika, everything from higher to offboarding to explore issues at a deeper level. Ah, okay, maybe it's in the settings. No worries, no worries. We could use the chat. Could use the chat. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Hold on a second. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. All right. But that's no problems. That's no problems. All right. So when we think about the people analytics mindset, it's all about digging deeper and looking for evidence, right? You need to ensure that what we see now is shifting from what we'll consider the traditional HR, the old administrative type HR, what we used to call them, the hire and fire people, um, into a more data driven evidence type of approach, right? Yeah. Hopefully you all see me back again. Just had a little glitch there. Yeah. So it's all about shifting and looking at data, allowing data to be a part of what you do, and letting data become that critical component, right, upon which you make your decisions or drive forth the decisions in the organization, right? Especially in relation to the workforce. So it's very important to be able to understand that relationship and utilize the importance of data, right? And it's also a very strategic type of mindset. We aren't just looking at it from a day-to-day operational type stance. We are looking at it from an HR business partner, right? We're connecting HR to the business, and it's all about sustainable outcomes. So it's very strategic. We aren't using data for for short-term wins. We can get short-term wins, yes, but continuously collecting, reviewing, analyzing data, and sharing what we've come across and the insights we've generated helps the organization at a strategic level. So the the people analytics mindset is really a very strategic perspective. Ah, okay, no problems. Thanks. Yeah. So when you think about that, it does require what we'll call a transformative approach, right? So it's pretty important to think past what we do every day, because sometimes it does get tempting, right, to to get caught up in the operational. But when we think about analytics, it's all about collecting data, seeing trends, and trying to well, it's not about outing fires, because we don't want fires in the first place, right? We want to ensure that we clear the way and we don't have to be outing fires at all. All right. So that is a high level view of the HR analytics mindset. And the data driven approach, which is part of the HR analytics mindset, is just a couple of steps. And these are steps that I practice. And I created this slide to kind of share how I approach data, how I approach gathering data and actually being able to follow through on the whole analytics process, right? Because the first thing you have to think about, HR supports the business. All right. So we have business goals. We have to ask ourselves, what are we trying to achieve? What do we need to solve? And how does that solution help the business? So business will always come first, the business goals. Then secondly, we think about where are we getting the okay, what data do we need? Right? If we are looking at, let's say, turnover, for instance, what data do we need? We need hire data, we need exit data, we need, general employee data. All right. So we'll get turnover, and if we have to work out things like tenure, we need things like hire dates. So simple enough. When you are thinking about what problem are we trying to solve, we'll ask ourselves, what data do we need, right? And then, of course, where are we getting the data from? Where will we get the data? And in many cases, it's not only HR, internal HR data. So we have to also ask ourselves, even if it's internal HR, who are we getting this data from? Right? Who will provide us with the data? Cool. And then, of course, after we collect all of that, the next step is what technology tools? Hi, Janet, no worries. All right. What technology tools will we use to actually process that data? So that's why today I told you all, we're going to look at Excel, we're going to look at Power BI, right, as the two main tools to both analyze and visualize our data. Yeah. So why data in HR? I think we know why. Data drives our decision making. All right. Data ensures that HR also will align with organization, right? So HR connects with the business. And we are trying to stay ahead of the game. So using data will help us be more proactive with our decision making. So that is very, very important. All right. Or just want to let to find out from you guys, did you all were you all able to connect to the folder and pull down the files? So do you all have the Excel workbook? Do you all have the Power BI file, right? Those are two main files that you're gonna need, right? And if you're getting problems with Power BI, okay, great. If you're getting problems with Power BI, that's not an issue. I could always work with you after, and to make sure that everything works afterwards. But if you aren't able to work directly with us here, which would actually be ideal. If you can't, that's all right. We'll have the recording. I'll have some additional tips as we go along. Even after the training, you could reach out and I could always share additional resources with you. So that's not a problem at all. Okay, great. I'm seeing you guys got through. Nice, perfect. All right. Don't worry, guys. I'll try to make it as easy as possible for you to do as little manual work as possible. I'm trying to focus a lot. While I will do a lot of the work here, you follow along, you do it as well. If you're getting problems, let me know. But these files, when I finish with them, so like when I have the final versions, actually, I am working on them live on my local version of the folder. So when I'm finished with them, I will upload them as the final versions on Google Drive, so you'll get them as well, right? So you could compare if you did your stuff and you probably got some errors, how what adjustments you might have to make because you're gonna get the fully working file. All right, but don't worry. Some of the functions and stuff, all the things that we're gonna do are pretty straightforward. I'm gonna do them a couple times, so that you will get the hang of it and you can play around with it afterwards too. All right, so cool. So the data-driven decision-making process, it starts with collecting data. You see, everything starts with data, right? Data, data, data. That's how it starts. Without data, we can't have information, we can't gain knowledge, we can't make the decisions. No problems, no problems. All right, you're welcome, Natasha. All right. So data collection, analysis, and of course implementation of the various decisions. So there's a process called the DECA model in knowledge management that speaks of data to information, knowledge to action and to results. So data is processed into information that we capture, that we'll see in our charts and all these things that we'll get from our stories. We will use that to gain insight, which is of course new knowledge, and with that knowledge we make decisions. Decisions are either good or bad, so we're gonna get the outcomes or the results from it. All right. So it's not just about having data. How many of you all collect a lot of data? Your organization has a lot of data all over the place, but then they're data rich, but information poor because you don't have a lot of people analyzing that data to really capture meaning from it, right? So collecting data is great, but it's useless if you're not doing anything with it. All right. So that's usually the downside of things. Yeah. Of course, where do we get it? Where do we get our HR data from? And HR data, as I mentioned earlier, does not come from only HR. All right. And you collect a lot. Yeah. What do you all do with it, Natasha? You all I'm guessing because you're in the workshop that they're not doing enough with it. Right. And there's a need for more analysis to be done on the data. And it's not just about capturing like descriptive stats and all those kinds of things right here. It's not just about the basic analysis, but it's about how do those results link back to the business, link back to your workforce. People analytics is really focused on what's happening with the workforce. I have a simple analogy that I use with regard to thinking about the workforce. And you will see this when we start looking at headcount data and turnover data, right? Because the workforce is like a puddle of water. I wouldn't say a bowl because a bowl is too clean in terms of structure and these things. It's like a puddle of water. And this puddle of water moves around. So it's like within your workforce on a daily basis, you have people coming in, you have people exiting, and then the depth of the puddle at different points in time would lend towards levels of engagement, dissatisfaction, activity, productivity, etc. So you have this fluid type of element that really forms the workforce. That's my thinking of it all the time, right? So anytime we're talking about some organizational issue, that's what I'm thinking about. Okay, movements in and out of the puddle, and then in the puddle, different depths, different ripples, and all these things that happening within the puddle itself. So you have that basically represents your active staff. And how do we gather that data of all of this that's happening within the workforce? So it doesn't only come from your HRIS. Your HRIS is only one part of the equation. So we're looking at within the employee life cycle. Yes, we may have recruitment data in there. We'll have performance data in there. We'll have absenteeism and all these things, time and attendance, and some level of talent management we might have inside of our HRIS. But there's so many other data that we don't capture. Let's say you do surveys of staff, engagement surveys, other types of surveys, or any type of, let's say, training, right? Training, coaching, mentoring, all these types of activities are not captured within the HRIS. So we have that somewhere else in a folder in our HR drive sitting there, right? Now, we also have general operational data, business data, customer relationship management, operations, productivity data, financial data, sales data, right? Let's see. Our current HR leader wants to meaningful metrics that add value, right? Like regrettable turnover, yes. Add meaning, correct. Now, so that's the thing. There's a lot of subjectivity with regard to, every organization measures like regrettable turnover differently, right? So you have factors that you have to get more data to determine whether an exit was regrettable or not. Yeah. So what factors are you using? Let's say maybe a particular amount of tenure, right? A particular amount of tenure, maybe a performance level, right? Maybe if you identify that the particular skills of that particular role are hard to find, right? Or it's high quality in terms of it's critical for operations, right? Yeah, performance tenure level of the position. And you have to think about it from a skill perspective as well, Natasha, right? What are the skill sets required for that role? And are those skill sets available or are they difficult to acquire? So it really ties back into the recruiting process. How difficult would it be to replace this person? So that also will contribute towards it being regrettable. Yeah, definitely, right? I wonder why, Rika, you'll think about that. Maybe because that's something like a talent thing, and right? So we think about that, and business data also aligns to that, right? Because if you look at it, we have certain front-facing units within the organization that, yes, I probably had no idea, right? And that's the thing, right? Because some of these skill sets are very hard to find, and and to tell you from even experience, not only with this organization here, um, is that other organizations actually pay higher for certain roles. So you have, yeah, poaching by international companies, as well as some of the restrictions for the organization with regard to salary bands and what they're capable of paying. So you might have the talent, but you're not able to attract the talent because of compensation. So these are some of the things you can actually track too, because acceptance rate is something you could track with that. All right. Yeah. So all of that is part of it. And then, of course, you have external sources where they come from: industry report, benchmark reports, and all these things. One thing to note, guys, a little caveat here with benchmarks. Benchmarks should be used with a pinch of salt, right? Every organization is unique, even if you operate in the same industry, same territory as the benchmark reports, because every organization is so unique with regard to what they do on their workforce. Benchmarks provide somewhat of an indicator, but it's not like the ultimate litmus scale test, right? So yeah, context is very important. We need to understand that. So when people try to run everything against a benchmark, it's sometimes they're working against themselves, right? So be very cautious with benchmarks. So these are just some other examples of where HR data is collected. So we know the HRIS data, all the stuff in blue, other HR data like travel data, survey data, absence data, etc. And then we have the business data, right? So it's important to know where you are getting your data from, all right? So check this. Let me come to our data here, right? Now, hopefully you all seen it clearly, or do I need to zoom in some more? Or are you all seeing it clearly? I can make it a bit larger. Yeah, nice. So, okay, yeah, let me just drop in. I'll go to like 150. I'll go to 150, right? Yeah, with 150, you should be seeing it a bit clearer there. Nice. And of course, you have your copy too, right? So you could play around with it as well as we go along, right? Nice. So we have basic, position, department, division, gender, hire date, exit date. We are gonna calculate tenure, right? We're gonna calculate salary penetration. We'll talk about some of those things, right? And where do we get this data from? Of course, this data will more than likely come from our HRIS, right? Salary grades as well. I have some salary grades here that I used, and we will be using this data for our salary range penetration. Okay, all right, good. Right? We have some performance data here that we will have to do some calculations on. More than likely, this performance data might be in our HRIS, but sometimes not, right? Depends on how specialized your performance system is. It might be separate. Exit interviews. Where would this data be? Would this data be in your HRS? What do y'all think? Where would I get this data? Exit interviews. This is part of a survey, right? Because of course it's an interview, but it's part of a survey form. Yeah, some kind of survey software. We might get them to fill it out, or we might even do a direct discussion with them, make them fill it out before and then have an interview after, right? Could the performance and grades be used to set up your bonus? Yes, you can. Yeah, for sure. And within performance here, as we're going to talk about talent management, we do have the 9 grid, right? The performance potential grid that we are going to do some work on and to determine where these employees lie within the talent grid, right? So this is actually part of the calculation to determine our talent distribution across the organization, right? So performance data we will get from our performance system. Where would we get potential data from? Like I have potential here, and potential lines up, it ranges from 1 to 5. Where do you all think we could get this potential data from? Any ideas? Any ideas where you'll get that potential data from? No ideas? Performance appraisals? Well, yeah, the performance appraisal will, of course, it will give you the core performance. Yes, perhaps part of that discussion could a manager could explore potential, right? But potential is tied into, like, let's say feedback, like 180 feedback. Yes, skills as well, based on the skills inventory. So it's a combination of a number of things. So different companies approach it, slightly differently, but it is a combination of your training and qualifications, your experience within the organization, right? Attitude and behavior, participation, volunteerism. There's a whole bunch of different data that we could collect on employees that compile into a potential score. Yes, like high potential. Yeah. Right? So we have high performance that's easy to calculate in terms of meeting organizational goals, deliverables, and these things. So that is tied towards capability. But potential is not just about capability, it's about attitude as well. Because you are asking yourself questions like, if we put this person in a higher level role, like let's say a supervisory or managerial role, even though they are performing well, would they still be able to perform? Would they be adaptable enough? Right? So there are a lot of behavioral capability we're looking at here that will determine potential. 360 feedback, 180 feedback. Yes, it is. It is a mix of technical and behavioral. So there's a compilation of items that could be used for that. I didn't go into detail on it here, just for the exercise that we just dropped in some potential scores. So we're going to determine the talent and where that employee lies within the talent grid. But we could have some further discussions on that at some other time, right? I may want to share some items on how do we determine potential, like what are some of the strategies that could be used for that, right? And of course, so you're seeing that even though I have all this data in one workbook, we got this data from many different sources, right? I didn't go too wild with the variance of the data here. So almost everything is tied back to some kind of HR related data. So it either came from the HRS or HR data from another source, like interviews, surveys, etc. All right. So what I probably want to do, let me just jump back to the slides, right? We want to talk about some metrics. And of course, we know that metrics are what we call quantitative measures. Now, quantitative measures that may indicate qualitative items, right? But we are going to work on some very simple metrics. I love to look at metrics along the employee life cycle. All right. So we're looking straight from attraction to recruitment and onboarding. And when we get them in the workforce, development and retention. And when they are ready to exit the organization, we have separation metrics. So these are very simple areas that you could look at to actually start that journey. The employee life cycle is a good place to start, right? Because it allows you to have that foundation area to focus on different aspects of HR. And so, like within development, this is where talent management looks at this whole span as well, right? If we look at the umbrella of what talent management is, we have talent acquisition. So talent acquisition looks at these early sections here, right? Talent development will look at both of these, right? Development and retention, etc. Right? So when you think about talent management on the whole, it's really a holistic view, a higher level view of the employee life cycle. Yeah. So I also have some key focus areas as well. I think you may have seen this slide. I used it from another webinar back in 2021, and I think it has always been a favorite because it kind of gives you a lay of the land with some of the more popular or more frequently used metrics, right? So we go from recruitment, time to hire. Anybody knows what's the difference between time to hire and time to fill? And don't worry, guys, you're gonna get these slides too, right? So you'll be able to see these, at your leisure whenever you want. What's the difference between time to hire and time to fill? It's a very subtle difference, right? In these metrics, like based on the scenario and what you really want to talk about. In some cases, you will have to use time to fill, and in other cases, you'll have to use time to hire. So there's a subtle difference in the two, and let me tell you all. Difference between offer and acceptance. The offer and acceptance is the last part of that whole recruitment process, right? So the time to hire is really HR involvement. So actually, that part, time to hire, is tied from the point when HR starts to advertise, interview, shortlist, offer, and onboard, right? That whole period where HR is involved. And what you're interested in is, right? Time to fill checks a little before that, from the point when the initial request was made. So from the time the request was made, we're looking at that fill period. So it's the whole period that does not involve, that all the stages would not involve HR involvement, right? So time to fill is like the holistic process, and time to hire is the HR part of that process, right? So yeah, it's a very, very subtle, and you're gonna see subtle differences there when you're looking at the figures, but sometimes people misinterpret, right? So just sharing that one. We have training, right? Performance metrics, really good ones. Turnover rate of talent is an important one. We could actually look at the loss of talent, well, talent loss and all these things. They're variants of this as we go. With our talent data, we could probably take a look at that for the company and see what's happening with talent. Did we lose talent? How many people within, let's say, star performers did we lose, etc. We could look at that data as well, right? We have compensation. Salary range penetration is actually one that we are going to look at today, right? What do you all think salary range penetration is all about? What does that mean? What does it mean to you? What comes to mind? I say salary range penetration. What are we thinking about? So we know that We have salary ranges for roles and levels within the organization. So why do we need to look at how far within a range somebody is being paid? To see where a person fall in their grade? Yeah, well, if the person falls within their grade, we know that, let's say the grade is between 5,000 and 8,000. We know once a person is like 65, they're grade 1, they're within the range. But then knowing how far they are within the range, why do we need to know that? Right, it can help with bonus and merit payments. And if an organization is paying, like, let's say, okay, so like you were asking about bonus and let's say performance, right, Natasha? I worked in an organization where when you get like an A performance, like, over 85, you are getting 3 months salary as your bonus, and you get a bump in your salary, maybe like about 8% or 10%, right? Yes, and that's it, right? Increase in salaries. If you score a little lower, you'll get a lower percentage increase. But what that does, that pushes you up the range. Yeah. And of course, what happens if a person reaches their maximum? So if this person, this grade 1 person, reaches their 8,000, what happens then? And from a talent management perspective, guys, we are gonna pull some figures and we're gonna look at it, right? Right. And Kelvia, you know what happens? Many organizations will now do what? Let's review the range. But that's the wrong way to look at it. So from a talent management perspective, right? There's a reason why there's a range. There's a range because there's an expectation that this person will grow within the company. So if you get hired as a grade 1, over the period of time that we're giving you increases, that 10-year period you might be in that role, you are developing yourself, and there's a potential movement inside the company to higher level roles, and then we'll fill for the lower roles. It's actually easier to recruit for lower level roles than higher ones, right? So the aim is always to encourage employees to develop and grow into higher level roles because it saves the company money in recruitment, right? So if somebody's reaching close to their full salary penetration in the range, it means they've been there a while and they're not developing. So it actually does trigger developmental initiatives because we're trying to develop these people to go to higher level roles rather than increase the range itself. Interesting perspective, right? And if we start seeing the data that there's certain roles where people staying within their roles very long, then we have to figure out why. Because the whole aim is to try to encourage them to grow as much as possible in the company. Yeah, of course. That's a whole talent management discussion, right? But I guess y'all get where I'm going with it, because that's why we do stuff like that, right? And it's really to find trends based on bigger issues within the workforce, because we will start to see data tells us a lot about people's behavior or patterns and norms within the workforce. So it may not necessarily be behavior only, but just what culturally is happening in the company, right? All right, let me see if I can get this thing to move forward. All right. So, all right. So, core workforce metrics, we have headcount, tenure, turnover, and salary penetration. Let's work on two of these right now. All right. So, I'm going to jump across to my Excel workbook and let's do some calculations on tenure. How do we calculate tenure? I have a feeling it has something to do with the person's hire date, right? How do we calculate tenure? How do y'all calculate tenure? Or do y'all have the nice little push button your HRIS gives you all the tenure and everything? You have to just dress back, relax, your VIP, because your HRIS will calculate tenure for you. How do y'all calculate tenure? Nobody knows how to calculate tenure, or when y'all look at tenure in HRIS, you ever wonder, well, how does that work? All right, people quiet. So let's do something here. Your HRIS does it, yeah? And in your spreadsheet, you have a formula. Who did that formula for you, Lynette? HRS? Yeah, yeah. You have to do it manually, Natasha. Right? Start hire date from separation date. Wow, Janet. Okay. No worries, Janet. This is for you. Start hire date. So pardon me, what about if they're still active? How do you do that? If there's no separation date. So like right now, look, I have some employees here with no exit date. They're currently active employees. So how do we calculate their tenure? Start date to present. Nice, nice. Start date to present. Okay, good. So do I have to come and look to see if they're active and then put, start date to present here and then come down here and do start date to exit date, and I have to do this manually all the way down across all this data? Because you all realize I have quite a number of data records here, right? About 800 and change here. I think approximately 829 records. So do I do that? All right. Rika, I know a way to fix this, right? Right. So let's do this calculation now. And here we go. Natasha getting on bad. I can filter it. Okay, yeah, I could do that, Kelvia. Yes, that's a good idea. But better yet, I'm actually going to use the exit date to do Kelvia rather than the status of the employee. Right? So check this out. Oh, well, we're just doing tenure first, right? Nice. That's where the formulas come in. Right. So there's actually a function in Excel that you don't see coming up when you start typing up your list, right? And it's a formula called diff. Actually, let me get my notes up, right? Let me get my notes up. I'll push this one through for you all. Let me get it here. New notes. Yeah, there's a function in Excel called diff. Right? diff calculates basically the difference between two dates. And not just the difference between two dates, right? But we can result in days, months, or years as the figure, right? So if I'm calculating the difference between two dates, it could give me the result as the number of days, the number of months, and the number of years, right? So I'll just do an example here and you'll see. And then we're gonna look at conditional formulas, right? We'll have to get conditional as well because we're checking the condition of the exit. So conditional function, which is the if function, right? Because we are checking the exit date value, right? Because we're using the exit date as a condition and we had a test first, right? Oh gosh, Leonard. All right, good. So let's sort this out. So in my tenure cell, so my first cell in tenure for employee ID 1055, right? I'm gonna put equal datative, right? So with datative, you realize because Excel doesn't have it in their list, you're not going to get a structure for it, right? You're not going to see all the cool stuff you usually see with the other functions in Excel. So what this does, it calculates the difference between two dates. So the first date is the higher date, right? So the first date I have here is the higher date. So hopefully you're seeing this clearly, right? So the first date is the higher date. And the second date, because the exit date is blank, which means that this employee is an active employee, we don't have to manually put a date in here, guys, right? Anytime you're working with like current data and especially date values, and you want to always use the current date, there's also a function in Excel that does that. And it's called, guess what? You might not have thought of it. It's called today. So today gives you the current date, right? So if you actually type in Excel equal today with the two parentheses and you press enter, you're gonna get the current date popping up, right? So right now I'm calculating the difference between the higher date and today, and check it out. I'm gonna take it in years. So I'll just put a Y in there. So I'll say I want the result to give me a calculation in years, right? So I'll just press enter. And I need to convert this to a number, not a date. So it's going to be a number. And I'm gonna leave like one decimal place, right? So you'll see here is giving me a value in years, 16 years. Yeah, what y'all think? We got tenure. But of course, this formula will not work for this person who exited in 2013, right? So let me just do another formula here. Yeah, let me just go back. Oh, you know what I'll do, guys? As I do this, I'm gonna just dump what I initially typed in the chat, right? There you go. So that's what my function looked like, right? Now, with the second one here, this person, sure, this person exited. So this one where we're calculating higher date against the day is not gonna work, right? So let me just come back here. If I come down, I'm gonna do the next formula here, right? So I want you all to see the difference in the two functions for date diff, right? So this will be equal data diff, the higher date, the difference between the higher date and the exit date, and I'm gonna put this in years, right? So the only difference here, because I have an exit date, I'm not using today, I have to use the exit date. So if I press enter, I'm seeing this person work for 5 years. But I still don't like this formula, right? I still don't think this is fully accurate. What do you all think? This person worked for 5 years and change, right? Because the 5 years was August 2012. So they probably worked for 5.4 years. So this isn't fully accurate. Yeah? Yeah. Thanks. Right? So it doesn't always work like this. So what do I do? There are a couple things we can do, right? But let's fix this function first. So somebody mentioned, who mentioned the conditional formula here? Who mentioned the conditional? Let me put this let me put this, right? Natasha mentioned it. Thanks, Kelvin. Right, so this was the one for those who exited, right? So I'm looking at the difference between the higher date and the exit date, and I'm breaking it down in years. But the problem is I don't want to go manually and do this. So I'm actually going to use a conditional to check on this exit date, on whether or not this exit date actually has a value. And you see those two functions I have there? So the first one with today, which is for when the exit date is blank, and the second one, which uses the exit date if it has a value, I'm actually going to combine both of them in one function, right? So let me show you all this now. Anybody ever did an if function before? Natasha, you did an if function before? Natasha, I don't play around now, eh? Yeah? And it goes mad? Nah, don't worry. We'll fix that. Right? So when we think about conditional, now the conditional works in like Google Sheets and all these things as well, eh? All right? So no worries. Just come back. My chat just closed off. That's the biggest issue. All right, watch. I'm gonna do it now, and I'm gonna walk you all through it. All right. So I'm gonna do an example for this one right below here. So I have those first two functions up there, and I'm gonna do a very simple. Yeah, of course. You want cheat sheet, Rika? Now, let me don't call it cheat sheet now. Let me call it a reference sheet. What do you say? Right? So So let me do a simple, let me do a simple one, right? I'll do a simple function here. So I will just check to see whether or not this person left the company or not, right? So I'm basically kind of reflecting an active or inactive status here. So this is what a conditional looks like. So I'll say equal if, and you'll see the if function. You see Excel recognizes this one, right? So you see Excel has basically just 3 sections here, right? Now what's something? If you're learning functions in Excel, you don't have to watch me type it, right? What's something here? I typed equal if and I have the function open. You all know where the function, the formula bar is up at the top, right? Right where I'm typing up at the top there too in Excel. If you notice, there's a function button there. And because it's already detected that I have the if function here, click on that function button. And you're going to get this nice magical dialog box popping up. Yeah? So check this out. All the if function does is just 3 things, right? But I'll tell you all this. It's just 3 sections in this function. But this is one of the most flexible and powerful functions in Excel. So if you get used to this, Natasha, Rika, if you all understand how this works, you could do so much magic in Excel that you'll be wowing people left, right, and center, right? So the logical test is basically the condition what we're testing for. So I'm in this cell here, H4. So my logical test is I'm testing if the exit date, is equal to blank, right? I'm testing if the exit date has no value. And if you notice right now, it's telling me false because this current exit date has a value, right? So what I'm going to do, the value, if the exit date is blank, what does that mean? If the exit date is empty, what does it mean? It means that the person is still an active staff, right? And what was the function I was using with the dative? The dative I had used with today, right? Because if the exit date was blank, I used today's date to calculate, right? So I'm basically doing the same function here. I'll say dative higher date against today, and I'm gonna calculate it in years. Well, let me calculate it in months and show you all something. Right? Now, Excel will tell you it's volatile because it doesn't recognize the function, but the function works. Right? And if the exit date has a value, this is where we use the second one that I did, where it calculates the difference between the higher date and the exit date. And I'm just going to calculate it in months. So I'm just testing the condition, right? I'm just testing the condition. And for each scenario, it's going to do a different calculation for me. So if the person has an exit date, if that is true, we will calculate it against today to get their current tenure. But if this has a value, it means they exited the organization, and we calculate the difference between hire date and exit date in months. So let's see what this is showing me, that the result is 70. Right? So let me click OK. Let me click OK, and let's see if this worked. Right? So this gave me 70 months because that's the difference between July 92 and June 1998. Now I'm just gonna copy this into the chat. So it looks big and complicated, right? But I'm hoping that you'll understand what we did. Yeah, we just told Excel, test to see if there's an exit date, and if there is an exit date, work out the difference between the 2 dates, hire date and exit date. But if there's no exit date, then calculate the difference between the hire date and today's date, because more than likely this person is still with the company. All right. So you see how flexible Excel is, right? Yeah. Nice. Right. So we just told it, we just give it a simple instruction. Right. Now, of course, I don't want this in months, right? I don't want to see somebody's tenure in months. So the reason why I'm telling you all, I did this in months. Yes, the trick is knowing the instruction exactly, because once you know what you're testing for, you have to know, okay, if this happens, so like if the exit date is blank, then yeah, do this for me. And if the exit date is not blank, then do this for me. Right? So I just reuse the same functions I did earlier, but I combine them in the if function, so that is either or. So I don't have to go double checking anything. Excel will pick it up, Excel will know what to do and run with it. So basically automating that decision and which function is using. Nice. Now, I don't want this in months. So what I'm going to do is for each of these, just double click here. Oops. My Excel is going haywire. So what I'm going to do is this result that I'm getting here, I could divide this by 12. So I'm just going to divide by 12. So month divide by 12 in either case is supposed to give me the year. See here, 5.8. This is a trick that once you know this function, you want to take the months and divide by 12. This way you'll get the most accurate. Because watch, I want you all to check something for me here, right? Look at this function here, where we calculate years. This was years. Both of these guys were years. I want you to look at 16 years and 5 years. Now watch my function when I pull the months divide by 12. Watch the difference between that now. Remember, first was 16 and the second was 5. See the difference? 16.3 and 5.6. This is much more accurate. Yeah? Because what happens when you choose year, I'm afraid, no, 0.3 means 0.3 years. So 0.3 here would be what? 4 months? No, under a third. Right? So 0.3 years. Nice. Now, I'm afraid to ask this question. Could anybody tell me how old they are? I'm certainly afraid to ask. Now, you could lie if you want to, but just give me an arbitrary number. No? How much are you all? 25. Plenty of y'all probably 25. Right, so you see 39. So, Natasha, how far away is your birthday to turn 40, the big 40? Or Lynette, how far away are you? How many months are you? June next year? Right? So Natasha, why you didn't tell me that you are 39.45 years old? Aren't you 39 until even the day before your birthday? But at that point, you're probably 39.999. But of course, that does make a difference. Wow, Lynette. Yeah, so you fresh, happy belated. So you are actually 47.16 years old, yeah? So, but it does make a difference when we with tenure. But if we choose year only, it just rounds the year. So you see, we had 16 instead of 16.3 or 5 instead of 5.6. So when we do it like this, we actually get a much more accurate spread of the yearly figure because we divide in the months by 12. All right. So what I could do now, I think Rika mentioned it earlier, we could just autofill it down, right? So I could just double click and I get this thing filling all the way down. Tenure across the board. Yeah. So that's it. That's tenure calculated. What you all think? Excel is a lot of fun, but it requires, practice now. I think for those who know me, I work in Excel every day. And I've learned a lot of ways to shortcut this thing and make it work for me. And this is what any HR analyst will have to do. Because when you pull data from an HRIS, it doesn't always. Yeah, great, Lynette. Great, great. That's the whole purpose, right? I will also share this worksheet when I'm finished, yeah? So you're gonna get this complete sheet working and everything too. All right. You want the data in years and months? Yes, we can. We can. What we could do. So if you want, so you wanted like you want to see like 5 years, 2 months? Yeah, I could do that. So we'll have to do like show the years, calculate the years first. So I'll get the 16, calculate the months, and pull the remainder from the months. So, and then of course we could list it. So this will be like, 16 years, 4 months. And you want them in the same cell, Rika? You're thinking like watching the same cell, like seeing 16 years, 3 months, or 16 years, 4 months? Not necessary, but we could have them in like separate cells. I can do that. Here, what I'll do, I'll take a note of it, Rika. I'll take a note of it. Right, separate fields. Yeah. So what I'll do when we finish, I could always, before I send this final list out, I'm just gonna drop those fields in and you'll see it. And I'll have the function for it too. Yeah. So it's right, like working the years, working the months, but then doing the months. You have to divide the months to get that remainder. So like the 0.3, I'll have to get the 0.3 and pull the 0.3, multiply by 12 for that, and then share it. So it's a different calculation to get it separate like that. Yeah, but yeah, no worries. I'll get it done. That's minor. I feel like I in work. Right? So nice. So let's look at salary penetration. All right, let's look at salary penetration. What this is all about. So salary penetration, let me come back to our slides. Right? So we'll deal with headcount in a little bit. We've just dealt with tenure, right? So you'll see that tenure looks at how long an employee is with the company. And we take the hire date from the current date or from the exit date for the inactive ones, right? And the data diff, the date diff, basically, however you want to call it, it's there. Tenure provides insights on, of course, things like loyalty, experience, and potential for knowledge. So we don't just use tenure to say, well, how long people work in here. There's a lot more detail with regard to tenure than, people let off, right? If you don't know, right? It can help identify trends in retention and inform strategies for talent development and succession planning, right? So it's important to understand tenure. It's one of those core calculations you need to understand your workforce, all right? The other one we want to look at, let me just come here, not turnover yet. We have salary range penetration. So salary range penetration shows how close an employee's salary is to the maximum in their range, right? And what it is, it's really the current salary minus the minimum salary for the range. So kind of showing, okay, how much from, if somebody is earning 5,500. So let's say, for example, actually I can use my notes here for this one, right? So let's say, for example, the range is 5,000 to 8,000, right? And somebody is earning 5,500. So 5,500 within the range, we have to look at how far in the range is this value. So 5,500 minus the minimum, it's 500 in. But then we also want to look at what is the full range itself. So the full range is 8,000 minus 5,000, which is 3,000. So the range is 3,000. This person is 500 in. So they're basically 1/6 in. So salary range penetration for this staff is 16.6%, right? 1/6 of the penetration within the range. So we will do the same type of calculation, right, for our workbook. Nice. So let me just jump back to our Excel workbook. and we have salary penetration here. Now, let me work it manually first for you all right? Because I want you all to see how this thing working. So this is a grade 5. So grade 5, I have to come across to the range. Now this is how we do it manually, right? So 14,000 and 21,000. 14 is the minimum, 21 is the maximum, right? So if we're doing this manually, this will be equal to two different things, right? So one minus the other. So this will be equal to the 15,645. So I'm doing this manually, minus the minimum, which is 14,000. And I'm dividing this by the maximum, the 21,000, minus the 14,000. See? So I'm getting the full range, divided by the range, right? Yeah. So how much are they into this range from the minimum? And what is the whole range, which is 7,000, right? So if I do this, of course, I'll have to format this. This will be a percentage, right? So it may be one decimal place, right? So you'll see that this staff member is 23%, 23.5% into their range. But this is the manual way to work it. So I'm going to take this manual way. All right, let me just copy this. This is what the manual way would look like. All right, so that's the manual calculation. What we'll need to do, guys, where am I getting the 14,000 from? The 14 and 21 and all these things. I'm getting these values from over in the salary grades area. So how do I actually pull that value? So I'm going to show you all another function that you all probably would have used before, right? But may never have really understood. I'll have to tag the table. Well, the table is already tagged. So this whole table is called grade, I think. Let me double check. No, it's not grades. Salary grades. Yeah, I'll have to tag the table, but I'm going to do a simple example over here. Give you all some practice here. We'll do a couple right here. Right? I'm going to do this right here. And then we're going to show how we're going to do that calculation over there. Right? So let's say somebody's salary, somebody's in grade 5 or 4. Let's say somebody's in grade 4. And in grade 4, they're earning 12,500. Right? So this is their salary. Nice. So what I want to do, I want to find the max value and the minimum value for that grade that they're in. Nice. So let's follow now. This person is in grade 4. I want to show the max, which is 16,000. I want that to pop up here. And I want 11,500 to pop up here. And I also want, if I change this to like 3 or 2 or whatever, I want the max and min to change over here. All right. What I'm going to do is use a lookup function. So lookup functions are also your friend when you're doing analysis, any type of data that you're analyzing. Sometimes you have a long list, you want to find values, how values are connected. Lookup values are important. All right. Anybody here ever used lookup values before? Like a VLOOKUP? Nice. Well, I have a feeling y'all if you all saw it somewhere, you probably didn't really realize it. Seen a thumbs up. Who get my thumbs up there? I'm waiting for you. Tell me. Oh, you, Natasha? Nice. Let me see. Try and see if I could get you to come on stage, But I'm not seeing the option. I'm not seeing it. Right? But no worries. I'm going to explain how this lookup function works. Right? I'm going to look at, you're going to see exactly how it works. And hopefully that will help you, right? Understand how this whole thing operates, how easy it can be once you understand how it works, right? So it's a VLOOKUP. So I'm going to go equal VLOOKUP. And I am going to give you all a reference sheet for this. I'll work on a reference sheet for this, right? So you'll understand each of these functions that I've done here, okay? Now, if you all see now, VLOOKUP, you'll see 4 different values that are in the VLOOKUP. right? So the VLOOKUP, you could do this one, Natasha. I'm trying to, let me see if I could get you on the stage here. Hold on, huh? Come over their name, right? Now, I'm not seeing it. I'm only seeing send message, right? Yeah, yeah. All right, no worries. No worries. I'm going to do it. Let me do it here. So the VLOOKUP does four things. First, it's asking for what is the value you're using to look up. So you see, I'm using the grade, and you see the grade is also here in the table, right? So the grade is here in the table, and I'm going to use that to look up. Come on. Right. So the lookup value is the 4. So this cell that has the true. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, right. I'm just putting some dollar signs here just to help, just to ensure that it stays consistent, right? Okay. Right. No worries, thanks. So after I've defined what cell is defining the value I'm looking for, so it will look for the 4 or whatever number I put in the grade column here. All right. So I'm using this, and the table I'm looking at, I'll highlight this entire table. So I'm using the 4, and I'm looking in the salary grades table. It will always search the first column, the leftmost column. So that 4 is going to go down here until it finds the 4. The next thing is asking me now, watch. If I tell you all, think about this, guys, manually. If I tell you all I want to get the maximum in the range, and the range is 4, tell me how you're doing that step by step to get that value for me. How do you go step by step? I think the first thing you want to do, Francis, could you pull Natasha on the stage for me? Yeah, Natasha, you can't hide here now. Let me see if I'll get you on the stage. All right? So think about that. Think about if I'm asking you, okay, I want the maximum of grade 4. What do you do? And think about step by step manually. You are looking and you are finding. How did you find that 16,000 as the maximum? Didn't you go down the list until you hit the 4? Because I'm telling you grade 4, right? So you look at the grade column and you went all the way down to 4. And after you found 4, you went across to the maximum column and you grabbed the 16, right? And that's what you told me. So in this, yeah, Natasha. Just a little off. Maybe check your mic. I'm getting some kind of static and some. Check your volume. Yeah, a little better. Still getting no feedback, but yeah, tell me what you do.
Basically, you look for the grade, then you go
Uh-huh.
across, you go across the maximum, see which cell it in, and you type in the cell or you reference the cell, you click on it, and then click enter. I think it's something similar you'll have to do here, but um, like I said, that's my problem. That's where I
Right.
get stuck with the.
Okay, okay. No worries, no worries. So you see how well you're actually correct with regard to the manual way we do it, right? So it's basically the same instructions I'm gonna give Excel. Right? Thanks, Natasha. Right? Yeah, you probably have to check your volume. I'm still getting some kind of static on the mic. Yeah? No worries. Thanks so much. Nice. So what I'm doing here, I'm telling it, listen, look, use the grade figure I have here in this cell, go into the table and find the 4, right? Now when you find the 4, this is column 1, And where's maximum? Maximum is in 2, 3, 4. So maximum is in the fourth column. So I'm instructing Excel now, go to the fourth column and pull that value from there. And the last value is 0 because I'm saying exact. I want exact match. If you can't find it, don't give me no response, right? If you're not finding it, don't give me any result, all right? So this should give us 16,000. So when I press enter, here we go, 16,000, right? So the way that this works, let me share this with you all. How cool is that, right? So I just instructed Excel to go into this table, find the 4 that I'm looking for, and pull the maximum value. I'm just going to copy this function down. So it will show 16 still, right? But I want to find the minimum. And the minimum is in which column? Which column is the minimum in? The second column, right? Yeah. So I'll just change this. Let me just double click in here and say, well, I don't want to pull anything from the fourth column anymore because that's not the minimum. Go into the second column. So I'll change the number here to 2, and I should get the minimum, which is 11.5. Voila. Yeah. Nice. So with this now, watch how cool the lookup is, right? If I change this grade, it's going to change the results because it will be looking for whatever I put here. So if I put 1, see, it's giving me the max 7.5, the minimum 5. If I put 5, it's going to give me 14 and 21, minimum and maximum. How cool is that? Yeah. Now, we are going to be doing something very similar for our function over there to calculate salary range penetration. Yeah. Any questions on VLOOKUP? How it looking? Too complicated or straightforward? Natasha, it makes sense? How do VLOOKUP look for you? Yeah. Padmini, you're quiet. Another example? All right, cool. Let's get another example. You want me to do another value here? Or you want us to do a different example? I could use the same table, right? So let's find the mid. Let's find the mid-range. So look at this. To find the mid-range, we will always have to use a grade, right? It will always be searching the first column of any table. So as we're looking at this column, we're still going to use this cell, right, as the reference for whatever. So enter your grade here, and we're going to get the mid. So I'm just going to type it up now. Oh, Rika, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get the equal VLOOKUP here. And watch. Let's use the insert function button. Yeah? So I'll click on that, and the VLOOKUP arguments will pull up here. So there's the whole structure, right? And if you notice, what's something here, right? This also will help you as you're learning Excel because it explains every single step in a function. So if you pull this up, you'll see what? You look up value is the value to be found in the first column of the table, right? So I'm clicking on this cell because this has the value, which is 5 that we're looking for. The table array, when I click on it, it tells you it's a table of text numbers or values in which the data is retrieved. So it can be a reference to a range, right? So it's the actual range we're looking at. So I'm just going to highlight the whole table. So watch, think about it. This is logic. Like if I tell somebody look for the grade 5 for me, and I have to tell them where to look for it. So I'll say, hey, find grade 5 in the grades table, and I want the maximum. So like in this case, I want the mid-range. So if I'm telling them, okay, 5 is the grade, I want you all to look in the table, and I want the mid-range. So telling them it's the mid-range, that's 1, 2, 3, that's the third column. So I'll put the column number is the number of the column in the table, the third column. And the range lookup is a logical value. So we want to get a true value or exact match, which is false or 0, right? So if you notice, after I go through this, you'll see 17,500 pop up because that is the mid-range for 5. Let me just click OK. Boom, we got 17.5. Let me just format. Yeah, nice. So you when you're learning, you don't always have to type it out just like what I did here, because I'll tell you, this is years of me just getting headache and working with these things, right? It's not all fun and games, right? Sometimes you're doing analysis and like, oh gosh, boy, plenty work, right? But when you get used to it, it comes in a bit easier, right? So it's not only just this, um, but it's about you can use the function button after you have the lookup. So like what? If I put equal VLOOKUP, right, and you see it recognizes the function, you could go insert function, and you'll have this nice box that will help you as you're learning. So you'll pick up on the steps. It'll explain every step for you along the way. All right. So that's just a little tip for you guys. If there's new functions that you're working in and you're not too sure about, you could get it done here. Once Excel recognizes it, right? So this is pretty much what we have to do. All right. So let me come across to my employee listing to get to my salary range penetration. I'll just work on the one below it. So this one gets so the 4 factors are to be in the formula consistently, but how do you get the description salary range to work? Description salary range? What do you mean there? What do you mean there, Tamika? 4 factors are to be in the formula. All right. Let me wait until I get that. But in the meantime, I'll start my function. Right? Now, if you notice, we have the salary, right? Minus the minimum of the salary. And then we divided that by the maximum of the range minus the minimum, right? Now I just did VLOOKUPs to pull all those things, yeah? So watch, each of these values is a lookup. We have to look up for this, we have to look up for this, and we have to look up for this. See, there are 3 things we have to look up. Nice. Now, I could do this all in one. There are a couple ways I could do it. I could do it all in one, or I can make it easy for you all too, right? I could do it all in one, or I could do it in parts. So let me do it in parts, and then I'll combine them, right? So let's say I want to get it's really just the minimum and maximum I need, right? So the min for the range and the max for the range. And let me just change the color for these. Automatic. Right. So what I'm going to do is grab the minimum for this range. So of course the range is a grade 5. And of course this could be done automatically for everyone, right? But I want to show you all how I'm doing it. I want to break it apart in pieces and do it and make you all understand how we got this here, right? Okay. So equal VLOOKUP. I'm using the grade that this person has, right? So the employee grade. And now it's looking for the table. The table doesn't have to be in the same sheet. So you see I have the table in salary grades. Let me go across the salary grades. And let me just highlight the entire table. Let me come back and you'll see. So it's looking at the salaries table. So I've just highlighted what I'm searching for using the employee grade. Where I'm looking for it in the salary grade table. And which column? So the minimum is what? The second column. And then 0 for the exact value. All right? So if I press enter here, I should get the minimum, which is 14,000. Yeah? I'm going to type it up again so you'll see how I'm doing it for the maximum. So the same process applies. VLOOKUP, grade 5. I'm looking in the salaries table. That's the next step. I'm coming back here. the the maximum is the fourth column, and I'm looking for the exact value. So here you go. I got my minimum and I got my maximum. Nice. So I could have those here. I'm just gonna use these here for our little weekend, so you'll see how this thing happens. Right? So I'm gonna aim for the same 23.5. Oh, you saw the second sheet after. Okay, no problems. Right, okay. Right? So let's see if we're gonna get the same 23.5, right? So all I'm doing is just replacing all of these values with the cell references. So, all right, so let me just double click on it here and you'll see, right? So the 15,645 is our cell, wait, is J2. The 14,000 is our minimum value, O2. The maximum value is our P2. And the 14,000 is O2. Right? So I'm using cells for the values here. So I've gone, and this shouldn't be salary like this. This should be employees salary. Where is it? Right. So the actual column. Nice. So I press enter. What did I get off here? Divide by O2P2. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's fine. Right? It just wanted to properly reference the whole just the cell here rather than the whole field, right? So it's salary minus the 14 divided by 21 minus the 14, right? So here we got the same 23.5. But I can make this very functional, but we can, if you want to, just drag this all the way down the 14 to 21, it'll pull it from the range. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the full complex formula here, and I will share it with you all too. All right? So the full complex formula is basically a VLOOKUP for each of these values. So a VLOOKUP instead of O2, a VLOOKUP instead of P2. So it's really just two VLOOKUPs that I'm going to put in inside of here. Hopefully you all see where I'm going, right? How this progressing. Because you're thinking about how do I get values from elsewhere. This is very, very useful, guys, when you all have HR data all over the place, right? So you're having other sheets, other workbooks, and you need to look for specific values. The VLOOKUP is a very useful tool, right? Don't worry, guys. You're going to have some more exercises on VLOOKUPs just now. We're going to see, right? So this will be a VLOOKUP, and the lookup value is salary. Right? The lookup value is salary. The table is over here in salary grades. So I'll just highlight that whole table. The minimum value is in column 2 and 0. I think that is it. Okay, hold on. Let's see if I got this to work correctly here. So salary, grades. Oh, maybe I have an extra bracket here. Yeah, I have a feeling that's just an extra bracket. What am I missing? Divide by P2O2. Salary grades. 20. This is accurate though. Let me just take it out and let's test something else. Oh, right. I'm seeing it. There's an extra bracket. We suppose to add a bracket there. It's also be correct. Minus, we look up. Oh, it's actually not salary. It's we're looking for the grade, right? Yeah, not salary. We're looking at the grade. There we go. Yeah, because we're looking for the grade in salary grades and we pull in the minimum value, right? So I got the 14,000 there, and the 14,000 is also over here. So I just drop it in, right? And with P2 is the big 21,000, right? So I'm just dropping in Let me drop in my VLOOKUP there for the maximum value. All I'm really doing is just taking the same VLOOKUP and replacing these values here. So the maximum is 4. So you see we got the same percentage. And guys, let me just share this function with you all. It looks big and ugly, but all it's doing is just looking up and pulling the values from the next table. All right? Yeah, it looks big and messy, but you see it's just like two VLOOKUPs. We're looking for the 14,000, we're looking for the 21,000. And now that I have this, I could just throw this down all the way down across all my data. Now, this is very important, as I said. Salary penetration looks at how deep your employees are within their particular range, right? Look at this. Look at this person here. 18 and a half years with the company, 97.5% within their range. So they're basically maxing out their range right now. What do we do with employees like that? What do you all think we do with employees like that? It's difficult, right? So we are able to now see where our employees are at with their salary ranges and see if it's a big problem that we need to deal with for the company. All right? Nice. Now guys, I want us to jump over. I told you all I was torturing you for 3 hours, right? I want you all to jump over to the performance workbook. The worksheet, sorry. Rika, you might like this one. Everybody quiet, man. All they run away from her. I'll be like, what is this Excel thing? But you can't have us doing all this Excel stuff. But no worries. Here what we'll do. When I finish here. Well, look, I gave you the whole function there to put in. Right? No worries, no worries. That's fine. Are you guys fine? Yeah. Listen, the last one I just showed you all what you could do, right? But yeah, no worries, Janet. That's how it is. That's how it is. That's how it is. Don't stress yourself. Watch. I don't expect you all to pick up this immediately. It takes time, right? This is why people analytics not making the headway it's supposed to be making, right? But when you get used to it, we could do it in parts. You see the same way I did it in parts where I put the minimum maximum next to the table. We could always hide those columns and have it there and then just refer to it easy and quick, right? So there's so many different ways in which you could do the functions, but having one combined way and have it there, it done. You know, when I give you all this workbook, you have everything you need for that kind of analysis. And of course, playing around with it, you get to remember it over time. Yeah, correct. So watch this. We have two lookups to do, and this is easy lookup. Pardon me, this one easy too. This one real easy because watch all the tables right here. All the tables right here next to us, right? So check it. Rika, this was the other exercise you were probably looking for. So with the performance, our performance description, and the performance description will be one of these, right? So how this one is 5, the expectation is that inside this cell should have exceeds expectations, right? And with this potential being 1, the potential description should be limited. Do y'all think y'all could do this one? Yeah? Let me see. Who wants to volunteer to walk me through, to instruct me on what to do to get this performance description here? Who wants to volunteer? If anybody volunteering, Francis, you'll put them on stage. Let me see. Who volunteering? I feel bad many volunteering, I don't know, because she said she was fine until the last one, which means she was fine with the ones before. Padmini, what you say? If Padmini says yes, one time. Yeah, bring up. When I volunteer you, you'll be all right with that. Oh gosh, she ran away. Nobody wants to volunteer? All right. Look, Rika volunteering people. All right, let's keep it simple. Watch how quick this is, right? Let me walk through the process again. Equal VLOOKUP. Equal VLOOKUP. What we looking for? We're looking for the performance, right? Look at here. We're looking for performance. And where are we looking for it, right? The table array. Watch it. The performance table. Which column we're looking for? Of course, the second column. This table only has two columns. And 0 at the end for false. Press enter. Exceeds expectations. Yeah? Rika.
I think Francis volunteered me, and I
Okay, let's do the
accepted.
second one. Let's do the second one, right? So equal VLOOKUP. What are we looking for? Where's the value we're looking for?
On the table, you have to highlight the table first. So,
We ain't reached the table yet. We have here. We use it one, right?
right. So
So
what's the objective? Just say what's the objective first.
right. So in this for this potential description,
Mhm.
we want to get like, okay, so if this is 1, we want to get limited to come up here.
Okay.
If it's 2, we want to show limited as well, right? But it's based on whatever the potential is. We want to get this description,
So it's
right?
basically if one, then you reference the table under I something.
Yeah, well, we're not checking a condition here. We just
Oh.
use a simple lookup. So I'll use the VLOOKUP and we'll use the potential. So we 1,
Mhm.
and then we say where we're looking for it, which is this table.
Or the whole table. Okay.
Yeah, the whole table. So you get like no matter what value we looking for,
Right,
it's
right. So you
covered
don't have
in
to
the
keep
table.
doing it over and over.
Yeah. And then we want the second column with the description, and we want the exact match. So that's the 0 at the end, and that's it. So when I press enter here, I'll get a limited coming up, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So let me share these functions with y'all. So this is for the performance one, and this one is for the whoops. Let me just yeah, the potential. Thanks, Rika.
Welcome for doing nothing.
Right, and there's the potential one. So I've shared both the performance and the potential. So that's basically what you have in these cells, right? And if you all notice, yeah, same thing on me deal, right? And if you all notice, you also talent pop up, right? So what's the magic here? If I just double click down on the bottom right corner and autofill it, and do the same thing with potential, double click bottom right corner. Here we have all of the talent quadrants filled in. Magic. But Rika, you don't want to see this function I use here. I would never put you all through that. Not in a short training session like this. Rika, you watching it? You saw it?
Yeah, yeah, I saw it. I guess I got mesmerized when everything filled. So must you forget all the stuff you put. Yeah, yeah. Fine.
This is an X lookup. What the X lookup does, it looks in both directions. So let me just double click it down here so you'll see. See, it's looking at both the potential, like the high moderate in the talent grid, and it looks at performance as well, the below meets expectation, etc. And it looks at this, the 9 blocks in the middle here. So it's really cross-referencing. So where it's seeing moderate and meets expectations, it's gonna pinpoint that cell with core team member, and it's gonna bring it up. So this one is a little more complex, and it's certainly something. Now I have it here as a little Easter egg for you all, so you have that function. Um, but I could always create something in a reference sheet to explain how it works too. All right. So I'll for every function that we use here, I will have a little reference sheet with a basic explanation of how it works and an example. I could probably pull an example straight from this workbook. Yeah. So this actually has the talent for every member here. every staff that would have had some kind of performance and potential scoring. So this isn't all of our staff, right? So it's gonna have much less records. So there's like 580 records here, and this is for performance of staff across our workforce, whether they're active or inactive, right? So we have all kinds of data here: employees who are currently in the company, employees who left, right? So we have this calculation. Exit interviews, we don't calculate anything, so we're fully calculated up for the while with all of our workbooks. All right. I want us to do a couple more calculations before we jump into some fun stuff with Power BI. All right. So let's create a new sheet now. Oh, um, Francis, Rika wants to run away from us. Yeah. Oh, you want to put the whole talent formula? You don't have it in your workbook, or you just want me to copy it? All right, no problems. This lookup actually does combine um another function called if error. I will add that into the reference list for you all when we're doing it, yeah? And no worries, guys. After the couple of calculations we're going to do here, you don't have any more things to do to calculate again, right? I've done everything else for you. Nice. So before we do any more calculations, how well do you all know pivot tables in Excel? Because that is also a very important tool that we use within the Excel environment to analyze your data. Yeah? How well do you all know pivot tables? Or have you just heard this name and heard about this magical tool and you never really did too much in it? Zero. So you heard about it, but you just never really used it. All right? Only heard of it. No experience. Not familiar. Good, good. I like to hear these things because I like to hear the wow factor kind of drop in when you all see it. All right? Okay. So if I ask you how much staff, how much active staff are in Flavorcraft, you might come now and you will go look for active and inactive status, right? We might probably sort this. And then what you'll do, you'll probably, scroll all the way down and count, how much active and all that kind of stuff, right? Isn't that what you all will do? If from this workbook right now, if the one of the executives comes and they asking you, hey, you could use the subtotal. All right, you'll use subtotal. How long would it take you, Lynette, to do subtotal? You go in, you create the function, you run it. And if they ask you about 5 or 6 questions, you'll use subtotals all the time, right? Couple minutes. Lynette, what if I tell you that you could get the current active head count in about 15 seconds? You want to see me do it in 15 seconds? I'll do it in 15 seconds, right? So I'm not going to share any instructions. I'm just going to do it and get the active head count for you, right? And then I'll explain the process. Let's see if it's 15 seconds or less, right? Timer and see. I'm starting now. $588 staff. Was that 15 seconds, Leonard? Probably less than 15 seconds, right? 3. All right. Let me show you what I did. So we're back at our data. A pivot table allows us to pivot our data, right? You would have never guessed that, right? So it allows us to move our data around and be able to analyze it very, very quickly using the data fields that we have at our disposal. So like position, department, division, all of these, we could actually mold and calculate and make it very flexible, right? So what I want you all to do, make sure that your active cell, or your selected cell, is anywhere inside of this table. It doesn't matter where. It could be in the position field, it could be in the exit field, anywhere. Once it's somewhere in the table, once it's here, I want you all to go up to insert. And insert, the first option in insert is pivot table. So you click on pivot table, you'll get a pop-up box coming up. But all of these things are usually left at default. So they ask you, was the table? It recognizes it. You see it recognize the table? If you notice the marching ants or the moving border around the table, the next thing it asks you where you want to put this table. If it's a new worksheet, yes, you want to put it in a new worksheet. It's a separate entity, we put it in a new worksheet. And then identity data model, we're not dealing with that yet. So we just click OK. All right. So it basically takes you about 3 seconds to create a pivot table. Yeah. Tell me if you're getting any problems, right? Just click OK. And here, a pivot table is created for us. You see it's in a new sheet, sheet 2. Tell me if anybody getting problems with that. You all got it? Let me see some thumbs up if you all got it. Yeah? All right, nice. See, Lynette here, a third of the way there. So let me explain how I got to that active head count. All right? If you all notice in a pivot table, basic pivot table stuff here, you see all the fields up at the top. So you'll see pivot table fields from employee ID to employee type, all of the items here. All right? If you look on the bottom of the right side, you're going to see filters, columns, rows, and values. The columns and rows, remember there's a pivot table report, right? So the columns and rows represent the structure of the report. Yeah? So the structure of the report, if you put things in rows, so look, I did status just now, right? So I'll drag, you could basically drag the field into the area. So I'm dragging status in rows. And what you'll notice, let me just increase the zoom on this. You see, I drag status in rows, and it created rows with the values within that field. Let me take status out and use another field. Let me take division. So I'm taking division and dragging it into rows. And here you'll see all the divisions. Right? If I take divisions and put it in columns, it will create a column for every division. See? So the columns and rows define the structure of the report. Right? And you see, it's very fluid. I drag and drop, it's just gonna shift everything around. No copy and pasting involved, Natasha. Right? No copy and pasting. And then, so let me take division out, and I was answering the question, how much active staff? So I'll take status and put it in rows. So I'm seeing both the active and inactive staff. And if I want to count these, because that's what we have to do, right? We have to count. So I'll take the same status field and I drag it in values. If you all notice, you see the values in the name values there, there's a sigma, which is the sum function. It basically does some simple functions for us, like count and average and sum, right? So this is where the calculations occur in the values area. So if I drop status here, it's going to count it. So I drop status, and you'll notice it's saying here, count of status. So it counts the active values in the data set, and it also counts the inactive values of the data set. So these are all the staff that would have exited the organization, 241. Yeah? Cool? Now, we have a little exercise. And I want to walk through this exercise with you all to teach you all how you could answer questions, HR-related questions, with a pivot table given the data that you have. All right? Let me find that slide. That slide should be right here somewhere. Look at it. Pivot table exercise. I want you all to look at these questions, and I'm going to walk you all through how we answer those questions in a pivot table, using a pivot table. And let me pull up my notes. So I'm gonna show you all what what you look for. Right? Let me put my notes up in the top here. All right. Let me scroll down so we just have focus. Right. First thing you want to do, I want you all to just take a look at your pivot table. Take a look at the field list. So you see in the pivot table, let me just come back to this. In the pivot table, you see a field list on the side here. This has all of the fields that we're working with right now, right? Well, right now, just within this table. So we have some simple questions to answer, and we have some more complex ones that I will show you all as we go. But these are the simple fields that we have right now, yeah? So let me come back to my slide and come back to my notes. Now, when you look at any question, the first thing you want to think about, step one, with any question that you get related to HR and HR data, the first step is, what fields do I need? Remember that whole approach I had? We have the data already here, but now we're going to ask ourselves, what fields do we need? What data do we need from the data set to answer this question? So what data fields do we need? Right? That's the first thing you're thinking about. The second step would now be, what do we need to calculate, or where do we need to put these fields in our pivot table? So tell me, that first question, how many current staff are in the HR department? What fields from that listing you all have in your pivot table, what fields do we need? How many current staff are in the HR department? So let me just clear out my pivot table so my table is empty. How many current staff are in the HR department? What do we need from the pivot table? What fields do you all think we'll be using? Department, okay. So I'm going to take department. So we have department and status. Nice, Natasha. Yeah, yeah. Why status? Why status? Why status? Some have left, correct. So we want to know current staff. So you see, the trick here, the reason why I place this like this, is that people are not going to tell you how much active staff. Somebody might just ask, how much staff we have in HR? And we have to decipher from our data set what we need to answer that question, right? So the word current here is, they might say active, but we have to decipher, okay, our data is spread across both current staff or active staff and inactive staff. So yes, excellent. You're on point, right? So we realize that we need department and we need status. Now there are a couple ways we can answer this question, all right? So I'll take department and I'll bring it down in rows. So you see we have all of our departments, yeah? Oh, let me make this a little smaller now, because you all will see your department listed and everything too. So you see I'm taking department and I'm putting it in rows. Yeah, gender too. But we didn't ask the spread, right? But yeah, we could answer it too. You see, Natasha, when you get the pivot, when you have a pivot, you could dig as deeply as you want, right? So we could actually look at the spread by gender. Ooh, check Paka now here. Nice. Natasha on point with this pivot, man. So I have all the departments. Now you could filter, right? So you could filter by department if you want to. So I may not need, let me just make this a lot. I may not need all of the departments. The question is asking for HR. So you see when I click the drop arrow there, I could filter. I could filter by everything. So I'll take out all and I'll just put HR and click OK. So I just have HR right now. Yes, Lynette. Correct. So I have HR and status. Now, status, if we only want to see active staff, check something, right? You all notice I have a filters area here. I have a filters area. And I could come and put my status in the filter. And right now, right? Right now, the status, I'm seeing both. So I could just click active and click OK. So what it does, it filters by active staff, right? I'm going to do what Natasha just mentioned. So I'm going to get the count of people in the department in HR but we could also get it by gender. All right. So to count, I could count any of these fields here. What's something, right, guys? I could put status in here. And you see I got 12. Let me take that out. I could use department in here, anyone, because I'm counting it. See, I'll get the same 12. So whether it's count of department or count of status, I'll get the same 12. All right, either one is fine. And Natasha mentioned gender, because she just wants to mark out this department and see how much guys in here, how much ladies in HR, right? So we could take gender. Watch how cool the pivot table is, right? Watch how cool pivot tables are. I could take gender and I could put it in a row. So I'm putting it like under department. So when I put this, look at this. I'm seeing females 9 and males 3. And of course the total is 12. But what makes the pivot table so powerful is this. I could simply shift around these fields. Watch this. I'll put department below gender. Female 9, male 3. This one don't make sense, right? Because just repeating HR. But I can make this even more useful for me. I'll take gender and I'll put it in columns. So what I got here, females in one column, males in another column by department. Yeah? Lynette, you see how powerful pivot tables are? And I could take out the filter. Let me clear the filter. So here I have the full head count of active staff by department spread by gender. So anybody could ask me anything right now about department head count and gender head count. How many females we have? 168 females, 420 males, 36 males in warehouse south, 11 females in marketing. Right? You're bad. Oh God, Rika. Rika is already asked me a whole bunch of things already. And I'm feeling bad now because I'm showing you how quick and easy I get some of these things, right? What do you do to get the drop arrow button? Oh, look at here. So if you notice, let me just zoom in. So you notice where we have row labels here, Tamika? You see there's a little drop arrow there, or drop down there, and this is where the filter and the sort is. Yeah? So I could filter. So if I only want to see certain departments, like I only want to see accounts, cash office, finance, HSE, I'll click OK, and it filters only for these groups. Good there, Tamika? And then I could always come back and clear the filter and get everything. So you see, we got the answer for the first question, right? How many people are in HR? 12. We got the answer as 12. So if you want to clear the table, you can either uncheck the fields from the list or just drag them out of the block, right? So you see I'm dragging them out, you'll see the red X. Take them out. So all that hard work to get all that data is gone. All right, don't worry, no tears. We're going to get them back real quick and easy. Second question. Oh gosh, wait now, Natasha, jump out into the next question, man. Are there any women in our customer service department? All right. Well, we if we kept the pivot table, then we would have had the answer, right? So I could let me undo that. Customer service. Yeah, we have women. One. The next person. Correct. Right? There's one female in customer service. Right? So we did add the gender part to it. Look at this other question could be answered by that as well, right? But let's do something a little different. Let's take this out. So the third question, what is the head count of our largest warehouse? Now, we do have a warehouse division. So let's click on division. So there's a warehouse division. And I could click on department. So you see what happens, right? When I click on them, by default, they go into the rows. You could drag them in, do what you need to. But I have division and department. So here what? I'm going to filter by warehouse because I only want to see warehouse division. Right? So you see here, I'm looking at my warehouse. I want to make sure I have only active staff, right? So I'll go to status and put it in filter. So I'm going to filter only by active staff. And then I can take any one of these and I'll get the count of it. All right. So let me just take department, drop in values. And here it counts all of my active staff within the various departments in warehouse. So it's asking what was the question? What's the head count of our largest warehouse? So the largest warehouse I think is South, yeah. And look, we have 45 people in the South warehouse. All right. So you see how easily we can answer some of these questions. Now these are the easy questions, right? We can start to get more and more complex with a pivot table, and you're seeing where a pivot table can be a very flexible tool for you all when you're analyzing data. All right. Let's answer this now. How many new staff were hired for finance in 2023? This is a nice question. And you all get questions like this? You all get questions like this all the time? Well, not every day, but you get these kinds of questions. How long would it take you all to dig up? How do you create the drop-down arrows in the bottom right corner? Drop-down arrows in the bottom right corner. You mean these fields down here? Could you all bring Tamika on stage? Let's have a discussion. Let me clear that up. Yeah? All right. So in the meantime, while we're getting Tamika on stage, I think she's coming in. I'm seeing her tagged as a speaker. Tamika, are you able to unmute and stuff? The row and column. All right, let me do this one and see. I'm seeing Tamika as a there we go. I'm seeing Tamika. Tamika, talk to me now.
The how.
There we go.
How do you get the arrow in that cell?
Oh, which cell? This cell here in the table itself?
You had the headings and they had the option to have a drop down arrow so that you could see further things. So my question was simply, how do I get that arrow in the cell? So you have row labels there, right?
And you click this, and this is where I'll be able to do the filtering or any sorting I need.
Right, but how did you get it though? How did you get the action?
Once you drop in a field in here in the pivot table actually provides that feature for you.
Oh,
it's automatic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So any field that I put in, so let's say I put gender in columns. You see, I'm getting a column labels and a drop arrow here too. So the pivot table actually creates these additional features to allow you to sort and filter. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
Magic. See, magic.
Yes. Thank you.
No problem. You're welcome. I wouldn't want you to leave with that question still as a burning item. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So now, what were they asking? They were asking how many hires did we have in 2023 for finance, right? So which field do we need to pay attention to now? So we got the finance division. Is there any specific finance department? Yeah, there's a specific finance department. So what I will do, now guys, you could filter from right in the field list here too, right? So like if I go to division, there's a little drop arrow on the edge here. You could click on it and get the same filter options. So you don't have to go looking on the table. You can get it right from the field list. So I'll just take off everything and just put finance. So here's my finance division. So I could get it also by department. So they're asking how many people were hired in 2023. Which date, which which field do we need to include here? Which field do you all think we need now? We didn't use it before. It's hire date. Right? Hire date. Yeah, nice. Nice. We have some pivot table aficionados here now. But let's see watch how interesting pivot tables get, right? So if I go back to my raw data, my hire date is an actual date, right? Down to the day. So day, month, and year. So let me come back to my sheet. But so right now, my hire date is an actual date, raw date. What's something? I'm going to take the hire date and put it in the columns because the expectation is I'll get hire dates going all the way across in columns, right? Now it will look messy, but we're going to fix it, right? So I'll take hire date, drag it into columns. Boom. Now what you see happening, seeing a lot of things happening here, right? And watch, didn't I just drag one field? I drag hire date. Where all these things come from? Anytime you drop a date into a pivot table, it automatically breaks it apart into year, month, quarter. You're showing one? It didn't spread it into months and quarters and years? Yeah, it could be different versions here. Could be. But no worries, we could try to fix that. Right? We could fix that. You'll have to double check. But I'll see. I'll check which version you have. You'll have to let me know. And I can see if there's a workaround for it with a slightly older version. But it should still do it though. But no worries. So what I'm gonna do, I'll just take out all the quarters and months. I just want to leave years. So you see it neatens it up, right? And I could also filter it down to maybe we only want to see 2023, but I like to be a little fast. So I will go back a couple of years. So I just filtered it down to like the last 4 years. Right? And of course, we need to put status in because we need to only see, well, we don't have to put status because it's how much we hired, right? Not necessarily the who remain, but they want to see how much they hired in 2023. Yeah? So I could take status, so I could take any one of these values and just drop them into count. And what we're seeing in finance, we hired 10 people in finance in 2023. Yeah, that's what they just asked about finance, right? So we could go with the division. So I'm giving them like 15 for the division and 10 for the department. So they didn't specify in the question how many new staff were hired for finance. So we could give them both. We could give them both by division and by department, right, Rika? We get them extra. Better get them extra than less, right? And if we want to know, so like what? You could have multiple. How do I get the years at the top instead of the dates? Right, yeah, because you're stick. What you could do, try this way. Let's see. Let me try something here, right? Let me take out the years. Let me put the raw hire date. And let me just pull the data alone, right? So Leonard, this is what you are seeing, right? This is what you're seeing, right? You're seeing these raw dates. All right. Let me show you something. Let me see if we can try something here. Right click on the date and choose group. So you'll see a group option. Right? Choose the group option. And here, you see in this box coming up? When you click group. Yeah? Nice. Uncheck months, uncheck quarters, so you'll only see years. And then click OK. Tell me if it works. Yeah? Nice. Right. Now what's something now, guys? You can have multiple filters if you want. So multiple filters means, let me take the years for hire date and put it in the filter. So you see, I can have multiple filters. And with the filter, I just want to choose 2023. right? So you see here, I got 2023 as a year of hire, which is what they're asking for. So you see, I got the same 15, and I'll remember Natasha, and I'll just drop gender in columns, right? So let me just drag gender and drop it in columns. So I'll tell them, hey, you all hired 15 people, 10 females, 5 males. Boom. Don't ask me no questions again for your next month finance. We give you everything you're looking for plus more. What do you say? Yeah. So we answered that question. You'll see how cool pivot tables are? How we can answer a lot of HR related questions, right? Using our pivot table. So let me get to another question here. Which department within production has the highest average tenure? Remember, we just calculated tenure, right? So we have tenure within our data. So it's asking which department within production has the highest average tenure. So let's go. So we know that it's talking about departments within production. How about how many will be retiring? I do have age. I do have age in this data set deal. So I won't be able to answer that question. So now, yeah. So now you see, I'm happy you asked me that because there are questions where we may not have had the data in this data set. So then we can know, and we have to go back and say, okay, where we getting that? We go to our HRIS, we pull age alongside the IDs and all these things, and we could tag it onto this data set. And then we could do our analysis on age. Yeah. How many folks we deal with have no idea how to pull that up? Yeah. Right? Yeah, so we'll calculate age based on, and you know, Natasha, you get to age, we use the date of birth and the same date diff, right? The same date diff formula will calculate based on date of birth and today in years, and we could get their age, right? So just like when we calculated tenure, the same function can calculate age. Yeah, so I calculate age by year, and we good. Yeah, definitely. I can't recall why I didn't have age in this data set. There was a reason I didn't put it, you know. I think it was for some other exercise I took it out, right? So let me leave department and division, take out the higher date, and I'll have to take out the filter. Actually, you don't have to take out the filter, but this is what division. So they ask about production, right? So they asked about production, and what they were asking about tenure, right? So let me take status and put it up in the filters because I only want to see active staff. And they're looking for average tenure. So I have a feeling I'll have to just take tenure and drag this into my values, right? But wow, what's going on here? What's going on here with tenure? Something looking wrong. What's up, guys? I have no idea how to fix this. Could anybody help me? Right? Now, the question asked, which department within production has the highest average tenure? Now, if you all look at the pivot table, are we getting that answer? No. We're getting a sum of tenure. Yes. Yeah, that's fine. It's based on how it picks up. And remember, the older version of Excel by default will always use count. So pivot tables before, by default, was always count. The newer versions will try to detect based on the values it gets, and it tries to give you either sum or count. So it's not a problem either way. We fix it in the same way, right? Now, there are two ways you could fix this because we want to get average. Let me show you all. I'll show you all both ways, right? But both ways give us the same. They give us the same dialog box. So the first one, if you go to the bottom in the values area for the field, you see a little drop arrow on the extreme right. You click on that, and you'll see an option here called value field settings. It's the last option when you click on that drop arrow, right? But you could also, this is what I do a lot in the table itself. You could go hover on any value within the pivot table and right click, and you'll get the same value field settings option here, to last. So either way, No matter which way you choose, the same box will come up. The same box. So I'm going to do a couple of things here. Within the value field settings area, you could change how you're summarizing this. So you see here, sum, count, and average. What else? Anytime you're looking at this, you can rename it. So I don't have to see average or tenure. I could just put AVG tenure, average tenure. So you can rename the field up here if you want to. That's just cosmetic. And also, if you look at the bottom left, you'll see number format. So with the number format, click on it and you'll see something very familiar. Doesn't this look familiar? Format cells. When we format in cells, we see the same dialog box coming up. So I will choose a number, and I'll choose probably 1 decimal place, because averages get messy, right? They'll give you a lot of decimals on it. So I just put 1 decimal place. I'll click OK. Right? And Lynette, you'll see the magic, right? I'll click OK. Boom. Average tenure. That is magic. Works for you all? How are we looking? Yeah, easy, ain't? You see, Kerron, this people analytics thing, real easy, Nice. Rika, soon I will be asking you stuff, You ask me and I'll say, but Rika, you know how to do this, Good. So let's see this last question. What is this last question about? What percentage of stores consists of star performers, if any? This looks like a nice talent-related question. But in our data, I'm not seeing our talent data here, right? This pivot table was built for this employee listing table, right? So how do we get the talent data? Because the talent data is under performance. How do we do this? Because if I pull this and create a pivot from this table, I don't know who are active staff, who inactive. I don't have their department or division in this table. So how do I do that? Let me show you all how we could solve this problem. I go to my pivot table, and if you all look at the bottom of all the fields, do you notice a little area there at the bottom called More Tables? I want you all to click on it. Click on More Tables. You also have it? Okay, Lena, don't worry. I'll fix it for you. It'll ask me, do I want to create a new pivot table, right? To use multiple tables, a new pivot table will be created using the data model. So I'll click yes. And you'll notice I got a new sheet opening. And let me just clear out everything here. Right, we get a new sheet opening. And you'll notice on the side here, all kinds of tables. Yeah? Now, Lynette, what's something now? I want you to go back to employee listing, and I want you to click on any cell inside that table, right? Tell me when you're there. And I want you to go to Insert Pivot Table. Tell me when you're here. Don't click OK yet. Let me know when you are here to create a pivot. Nice. And you see at the bottom there, this little checkbox, add this data to the data model. You see this checkbox in yours? Do you have this checkbox? No. Okay. That's a real old version. That is what? That's a 2013 or 2016? 2010. Oh, that's why. Yeah. Data models and all these things weren't in That. How you used to do that, boy? You send them back here, Lynette. But don't worry, no worries. I can get some information for you because I'm trying to remember that workflow in the older version. I think it was under data, but I can't recall off the top. Right? But yeah, you should see that add to data model or more tables in the newer versions of Excel, and that will create this worksheet that we have here. Where look at this, guys. We have all the different tables in the workbook, not just the one table we were working on, which was employees. And you could expand on each one. See it? You could expand on each one and be able to work with it. So check what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. Right? I'm gonna take the talent. Let me go all the way down. Where's my talent table? Performance. I think for this is table 13. I know I had a name for it. I don't know why I picked it up as table 13. Yeah, table talent. Yeah, table talent. Let me know if it came up the same way for you all. It's similar to Power Query, Natasha, but not exactly. Yeah, not exactly, because Power Query is kind of like that in between Excel and Power BI. Yeah. All right. Right. So let me come back. Right. Okay. So in this, I'm gonna take the talent and I'm just gonna put it in columns. So let me just take talent here and drag it in columns, right? So I'll see all the different. Let me just make it a little smaller. All the different areas within the grid, right? But that's what I'll need from talent, and I'll probably want to count the talent. So let me just drag the same talent in values. So I'm getting the count of all talent. And this is across the company, right? But you see, I took it from a different table. I took it from the performance table, right? Well, the talent table. But I know I could use the employees table for all the other details, right? So like the department. So I need the department because what the question asks again? Stores, right? So I need the department. So look at this. This is the spread of talent across the entire organization, guys. All departments and all the different talent areas. Look at star performers over here. So across the company, well, the company consists of 87, but remember, we still need to put status here to get only active staff, right? So I'll go to status and I'll filter this to active staff only. So right now, staff performers, we have 52 across the organization. How cool is this? You have all the information here for you. And the thing is, you could filter however you want, right? So if the question asked, what percentage of stores consist of star performers, if any? And what's the interesting thing? They ask for percentage. So let me show you all how we do that. So let's find stores. Look, stores over here. So stores has one star performer, one person. The cheese stands alone, right? But then we could watch this. We could eyeball this. There are 4 staff. So it means that they're 25% star performer. But we don't want to eyeball this thing, guys. Excel has so much power. Why do we need to do mental calculations here? All right. So let me just right click. Let me show you all something else that you could do in in our pivot table, right? Watch this. I'm gonna right click on any value in this pivot table. And I'm gonna show values as. Look how powerful this thing is, right? Show values as. Just a regular figure is no calculation. But watch, I could put percentage of total, percentage of row or column total, percentage of difference from running total. I could do all kinds of cool stuff with this data, right? So what I'll do is I'll put percentage of row total. Percentage of row total, it'll go across the department. And the end of it, like the 4 that we have for stores, will be 100%. And it'll spread the percentages across all the different talent areas. So I'll click percentage of row total. Here now we have all the percentages. So you see here, it all end up with 100 in each row. So if I go to stores, 25% key core team member, 25% star performer, 50% trusted team member, and that's that. That's it for stores. So you see how I can answer these types of questions very, very quickly. I don't like percentages with all this stuff though. So watch. I'll go to value field settings, number format, percentage, and take off all those decimal places and click OK. So I just formatted all of my percentages. How you all like pivot tables for HR analysis? If we didn't do pivot tables and you got these types of questions from your HR data to explore, how long would it have taken you to get this done? Right? Practice, yeah, practice, yeah. But pivot tables are very, very helpful tools, and they aid in ensuring that you understand your workforce, so you could sit down and explore your workforce. Right? I have a little scenario. Well, I took a little extra time with the pivot tables because I knew you all were new to it and stuff like that, right? So I'm happy to spend a little extra 15 minutes with the pivot tables. Check this out. We have a little scenario here. We've received numerous complaints about a new supervisor within sales. Right? Let's talk about this new supervisor. And reports are that numerous people are leaving the position, leaving their roles, who report to this position, right? Due to what they're saying is a lack of proper supervisory capability. So we have some problems here, right? How are we gonna deal with this thing? And so we're asking ourselves, actually we didn't ask, but the head of sales and marketing came to us. And the head of sales and marketing came and said, "Hey, what's going on? Let's investigate the impact of this on the division and report our findings and provide recommendations moving forward." So it's a question that we got from the head of the division, right? And they want us to kind of take a look at this. So we could start with our pivot table, right? We could start with our pivot table and try to figure out, well, what's happening here. So let me just take out everything from this pivot table. Let's kind of hit this fresh. And let me show you all how we focus on this. So if you look at the general approach, the approach in the scenario, we go big and we drill down. So we look at employee exits for 2023 and we drill down to sales. We only take a look at certain positions that report to that sales supervisor. And then we look at the reasons for employee exit. So there are a couple of things we want to look at. And then we could probably look at other factors too, right? But let me see how we could get the basic things done. When we are investigating, we have to figure out, okay, do we have the data we need? We have the division, we have the department, we have the different positions. The positions that reported as sales, upon investigation, talking with more people, it is a pre-sales supervisor. This pre-sales supervisor was hired around December 2022. And there are three positions that reported as pre-sales supervisor: the merchandiser, the pre-seller, and the relief merchandiser. So you have three positions that report. So we now have the ability to drill down and look at these roles and see who exited or how many exited in 2023, right? So if I jump into my pivot, table, and I'm using the one with the data model, right? Because we have exit data that we have to look at. Where's my exit data? Salary. Yeah, look, exit interviews here. So you see it pulls all the tables, right? So we have exit interviews with all the IDs, people who left and the reason why they left, right? So I'm going to use that to figure out, well, what happened with these employees. So I have, let me take a look. What I want to do is capture, let's look at exit date. So I need to get exit date by year. So I'm going to pull exit date by year in the columns. And I'm going to filter it. Let me click on filter this guy. Oh, I'll filter it from up here. Let's filter for only maybe 22 and 23, right? Or let's look for 3 years. Let's see if there's a particular trend, 3 or 4 years. So when you're investigating, don't just take it from the same year. Try to mix it up, right? Um, I'll probably look at the exit reason. I'll take the exit reason from the exits table, right? And I could use the employee ID. Well, I could use the employee ID from the employees table just to count how many employees left based on these. So you see, it came up with some, right? So I'll just change it to count. So I'm seeing what's happening here. I don't have to worry about status here because anybody who has an exit date is actually an inactive employee, right? Right. So what I'll need to do is also look at the positions. So the 3 positions that are related to this little exploration that we're doing, right? So I'll take position. Let me take position, put it under here. Now it'll look messy, but we had to filter it. So I'll just click on that drop arrow here, take out everybody, but only pull my merchandiser, my pre-seller. Where's my pre-seller? And my relief merchandiser. And I'll click OK. There we go. So I have all 3 of them. And we are actually seeing a little trend, right? Because we're seeing very low 2020, 2021, 2022, 143. Look at this. 16 exits in 2023 for these 3 roles. So I want to focus on the exit reason. I want to get a better handle of what the exit reason is. So I'm just going to take the exit reason and pull it over the position to make it the main category. So you see here now, better benefits, just one, career change, commuting. Watch this, conflict with manager. Look at these 3 figures here. There were 8 exits in 2023 that spoke about conflict with manager as the reason why they left. And listen, I think we all know this, right? As HR people, those are the guys who saying all kind of thing, education and family, and you know they're lying, right? Half of them probably lying because they're afraid to say we didn't like that manager. But we have about 50% of them here who are actually open and said, hey, was a conflict with that manager. So we have some data to show that these guys who exited in 2023 had a conflict with their manager. Right? We have some evidence. We could also take a look at, even these guys who left. Okay, so if somebody asks you, who were these staff? What was their record? And all these kinds of things, right? Check this out. If I want to know who are the 5 merchandisers, how would we get this information? This 5 or the 2 relief merchandisers, if you want to get some more details and maybe reach out to them to ask some more questions or do some, how to fix the date? Oh, you right click on it, you right click on any date and you choose group. Right, Lynette? And what you see here, you uncheck everything except years and you click OK. Yeah? Nice? Let me know if you got it. All right, good. So if I want to see now with our pivot table, any value, let me go to this sheet here, right? So you see here, we have average tenure. Let me take out that average tenure. Let's do a head count, right? So let me just put status. So we have a count of the people in production. If somebody says we want to get all 46 staff, all the records of the 46 staff in product molding, how would you all go about doing this? Just a quick question here, 1 minute. How would you all do this for the 46 people we have here in product molding? What would you all do if somebody asked you all, I want to get all these records here, the 46 people, I want to see all 46. What would you all do? And from the time you tell me go to the next sheet and go and do this and go and do that, you're wasting too much time. No problem, Natasha. All you all have to do, guys, for any value that you all have in a pivot table, all you simply have to do is double click on it. Watch it, double click. So I'm double clicking on the 46, and a brand new worksheet is created with the 46 records that were used to compile that value. Yeah. So in your pivot table, you can actually pull in separate sheets. Let me just delete this sheet because it'll get messy. Any value, you could just simply double click on it, and you're going to get all of the source data that was used for it. And it's separate from the employee listing. It's a separate worksheet from the employee listing. So you can get all the values that you're looking for. So let's see if we could see the 5 merchandisers. It's based on where you see it? Look, the 5. And check this. Data return for count, conflict with manager, merchandiser 2023. So we have 4 females, 1 male. Look, we have the tenure in months, 10 years, all kind of stuff, right? So we get to see a lot of data here for the, let me just delete that, right? So any value that you have it in your pivot table, it would actually just, you could actually pull the raw data from there. Yeah? How are we looking with that? So we've gathered some evidence that 50% of our staff, 50% of the staff who left out of the 16 who left in 2023 had conflicts with the manager. And so we now have some evidence to move forward, right? In terms of sharing this with the divisional head and all that kind of stuff. Of course, we can answer more questions for this. Maybe some more questions you all can answer even based on what we have here. Like, what was the average tenure for these guys who left? What was the range penetration of their salaries, and that kind of stuff, right? So there's a lot of cool things you could do when you start exploring. And this is why it's useful to have the scenario, because it gives us focus on what we need to look for, right? So you see, we did connect the exit interview data with the positions. And of course, we could explore like what was their actual talent level within the company, right? So we could explore all these other factors if we wanted to. But now I want to throw us into Power BI in terms of how can we actually take some of this data that we've been analyzing in Excel and visualize it in Power BI. And I want to show you all a powerful little set of measurements that I've created so that you all could get some really cool metrics straight from inside Power BI. All right. Now, in order to get Power BI up and running, you all could open up the file that I had shared. So I have the Flavorcraft Power BI file. Now I already have it open. So let me just get to that. There we go. Now, if you have a blank file, like you created something from scratch, you'll basically see a file like this, where add data to report, import data from Excel, and you just click and browse to the Excel file, right? Now, guys, you would need to close your Excel file for this, right? Because Power BI will pull from the file, and if it's open, you're going to get an error. So let me just save my file. I'm saving my file as is, and I'm going to close the Excel file. Yeah, and I'm going to go to my Flavorcraft file. Yeah, everybody good? I'm hardly hearing from you all. I see the chat kind of fall off. Are they falling asleep on me? Or y'all planning your lime later? Which one? Hopefully everybody else is hearing me well, and that the network issues are not coming from my side. Okay, thanks, Dale. To use a software to open the file. Yeah, Power BI. You'll enter your Power BI installed, Rika? You could right click and choose open with. Or you could go to Power BI, open Power BI, and then go to File, Open, and browse for it. Oh, it zipped the file? When I shared it, it zipped it out. Let me check. Let me check if it zipped it up when it uploaded it. It probably zipped it when it put it up on Oh yes, it looks like it zipped it. Yeah. Unzip it first, right? Just extract it first. And then open it. And make sure it's in the same folder. Yeah. The PBIX file is zipped. So you might have to just extract it first. Google Drive would have done that when I uploaded it. It would have done it by default because of the type of file it is. Yeah? So we're going to do a nice quick tutorial on Power BI. Right? We spent a little extra time in the pivots, but I'm happy with that because y'all didn't know the pivots too well, and I think that's actually a tool you're gonna use much more than Power BI anyway. And I'll probably do an additional half an hour tutorial on Power BI, and I'm gonna share that with you all as well. All right. So anything that where we use the extra time with the pivots, you're not gonna lose that time with Power BI. Yeah. Nice. So let me know when y'all get that sorted out because Google Drive automatically zipped it up. Just extract it in the same folder, and then you could double click it and let me know. Right? Now the Power BI environment is a Microsoft tool, so it's not gonna be overly complex with regard to the layout. All right. So after a few times of using it, you pretty much get used to how it works. All right. Now there are quite a number of things that I did already in this file for you all. And when we actually, if anybody is in the masterclass, we will be doing some of these things from scratch. So you will learn how to do all of this. So like what I created was the whole data model is created in this file. I already created the data model with dates, and I've created some measures or calculations. I've created some calculations already. When in the masterclass, I'll show you all how we can actually write out all our code. So the actual data measures, the Power BI measures file you all have there, we will actually be programming that straight into Power BI. So you'll actually learn how to create your own measures and work and customize Power BI how you need it, right? But Power BI is a very powerful tool with regard to visuals and creating visuals for your work. Nice. Rika, you getting through? You're getting through with unzipping it? Yeah. If you extract it in the same folder, Rika, just click extract all and just click OK. It will create like a subfolder, but you can take the PBIX file and put it back in the same folder. So your folder should be looking like let me get to my watch. You should have the PBIX file in the same folder with the Excel file. So watch, you might have it zip like this. So let's say compress the zip. So this is what you're probably seeing. So you can just right click and choose extract all. And when I click extract, what it sometimes does just create it in a folder, right? So I'll just go in the folder, take out the PBIX file, and put it back in this folder here, in the main folder, right? Unable to scan? Yeah, that's fine. You should still be able to open it. Or check what to do, Rika. Instead of that PBIX, everybody here has the Excel file, right? So watch what to do. Check what to do, guys. Open Power BI, and you'll get this screen, right? The untitled Power BI, right? Open Power BI. So you'll see this screen, and watch. Click import data from Excel, and go and browse. The browse window will open. So watch, when I click import data from Excel, it browse, and you see it came to the folder. Well, I have the folder where my Excel file is, and I'll click the file and click open. So that's your workaround there, Rika, right? So you don't have to open my file. But the problem is you're not gonna have all the measures and thing that I did. Right? Yeah, it works, but my file has all the calculations and thing. I kind of pre-did some work, right? Where's Janet? Let me see. No, I think she was lost with the fact that the file was a zip file, right? Janet, your file was a zip as well? Yeah, I think that's what went on. Yeah, because Google actually automatically zipped up the file. But the file is safe. The file is safe, Tamika, so you can extract it. Right? Now, if you open the file through Excel, open it through here, you're gonna get the default. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably send everything as a zip in future, like all the files. So all I do once you extract it, you'll extract all the files one time. Because I didn't realize that Google Drive was zipping that one up. Yeah, just unzip it. And once you unzip it, put it in the same folder. Just put it in the same folder, right? So you'll see the PBIX file with the Excel file. And make sure the Excel file is closed when you open up the Power BI file, because it's going to load whatever is in the Excel file. So I'm going to come back to mine. So what I want to show you all, right, is if you saw that measurements document I had put up, this is basically what I did to calculate things like headcount, hires, exits, and turnover. All of this was already put into Power BI, just to show you what usually goes into Power BI to make it very powerful, right? So this is already in the file that I've shared with you. And we can do some really cool calculations within Power BI using that little work that I did to prep the file for you, right? So I'll just show you all something real quick. Visuals in Power BI, just like how you have your cells in Excel and all these things. Let me know if you all getting through. Rika, you got through? Unzipping it and putting it back, just put it in the folder. Janet? Because the file not large, once you try to unzip it, it shouldn't take long. And just make sure you put that PBIX file back in the folder, the main folder with the Excel file. Just like how I have it here. Right? Just like this here. Just let me know. Okay. All right, no problems. I'll zip up everything after and send everything. So you'll have all the files and everything too, right? So you can play around with it too. Okay. Right? Now, how Power BI works, you have the canvas area. Serious. Can I? All right, no worries. Let's see. So I guess can I send this? Nah, it'll zip it up anyway. All right, no worries, no worries. I will zip up everything and send it to you, all right? So let me give you all a quick demo of what Power BI can do with the calculations that I did in the file, right? So within Power BI, we have all these different visuals that we could use. Very similar to like the charts in Excel, right? But we can make them very powerful. So there's a card. We can create a card. The first thing you have to do in Power BI is just click on the visual that you're looking for. And what it does, any kind of visual, like this card, you could drag anywhere on the canvas. And with this, you could select any type of item here. So like watch, I have all the data values, just like how we had it in the Power, in the pivot table. We have all of the fields here. So I'm going to go to one of my measurements and I'll click on head count. And so let me just check that for the card. And here you see we have 588 as the head count. Now this card, within Power BI, you can format it. This whole section here, this pane, we could format anything with the card, right? So like I could take out a head count label. I can put a title for it. So we don't have to leave it as head count. I could put employees and do formatting like that, and even resize the card straight from here, right? I could put a background on it. Effects, I could put a background color. Let's say purple, for instance. I might have to change all this text color, right? So let's choose a lighter color, like a blue, right? And I can round this thing up. So let's put on a border and round it up and put the same blue. So here I have a decent little card. And this is like the start of a dashboard. Yes, Rika? So it looks familiar, right? We could start dashboards using the same data that we have here. A visual element like this. So the couple of measures I have is exits, headcounts, and hires, right? I didn't put the turnover yet, but let's just use these three for now. So I could copy and paste just like Microsoft, right? Paste, paste. So you see right now I have 3 of these cards floating around. And I could just change what data I'm showing in here. So just like with the pivot table, you see I'm just going to come here, uncheck headcount, and let's put hires. So if I put hires, I'll have to change the header, right? So I'm just going to go to the title and change this. So this will be, instead of employees, this is hires. And this, I could change this to exits, how many people left the company. And I just had to change the title to reflect that. Exits. Now this is from the full data set, right? If you notice. So I have number of employees. So these are active employees, but watch, 829 hires, 241 exits. This was like for the whole data set. But I could fix this because I want it only for certain periods of time. So remember we have dates, right? We have dates. We have a date table that I created here. So I could say, watch, remember the question we had, how many people were hired in finance in 2023? I could give you how many people were hired and exited the organization and the head count of the organization in 2015 using dates only. So I could put in a slicer, and the slicer, just like with the pivot table, will highlight dates that we could use. So I'll put year in the slicer. So you see, let me just pull it all the way down so you'll see. So this has like for all the years, right? Of course, we could filter this as well. So you see there's a little pane here called filters. And I can say, I don't want all the years. I probably want like just the last 5 years or something. 23, 22, let's say till 18. So we could filter this, and I have it just for the last 5 years, 6 years. And I could check on any year. Watch this. If I check 2023, there are 588 employees, 222 hires, 55 exits. Let's look at 2022. We had 421 active employees with 110 hires and 17 exits. What do you all think? So you can make Power BI very, very interactive. right? So like I could choose any year. Look at 20. Let me see what happened in 2018. 208 employees was the total headcount with 49 hires and 14 exits. Now, what's something else? I could choose any chart I want here. So make sure you have everything deselected, right? Because what happens if you have something selected and you change the chart type, it changes that chart type. So I want something new here. So I'll choose like, let's say, clustered bar chart like this. Have this here. And I could choose, let's say, yeah, let me see. Yeah, I feel I need to. All right, guys, you all know we almost time up, right? Y'all want to give me 15 minutes because I want to show you all some cool stuff right here in Power BI. How that sounding? 15, 20? Nice. Once I get you okay, because I know you all probably have big plans to Lime later, and I don't want to distract you all from all that. Nice. Thank you. So, wow, Janet. Wow. Okay, no problem, Rika. Right? So if I let's say I have department, or let's say division, right? So I just check it and I put division in the Y, and I could take head count and put it in the X. So you see I could drag and drop. Look at this. I could see head count by division. And what's something, right? 2019, see our chart updates, 2020, 21, 22, 23. So our chart will automatically update based on the period that we've chosen here. Yeah, well, it'll be like a brand new file. The Power BI file that I shared already had some of these things already programmed in it. So it was like a saved file with some work already done. But no worries, Samika, I'll make sure I zip up everything together so you'll get all of those files together as one. Right? Now, some tips in terms of how we build story. Yeah. Yes, it does. I'm selling all the secrets here. Right? Now, what we can do to make this chart more effective, guys. So when we think about visualization, we don't want to have like a whole bunch of stuff. And when you're thinking about visuals and telling a story, less is more, right? The more focus you allow, you put less stuff to allow for more focus, right? Less is more. So let me duplicate this, right? Now you have multiple pages in Power BI, just like how you have sheets in Excel. So I'll just right click on this page and duplicate it. So I get a carbon copy, because what I want to do, I want to show you all what the original chart was and what I'm going to change this into, right? So I'll show you all something. I'm also going to change up this. So like less is more. So like with this, I could create it as a drop down. So slicer settings, I could make it a drop down. So it takes up less space. And I could just increase the size of the values, right? So I just had to check on it and then choose whatever, right? 2021. So it takes up less space and it's less intrusive. But look at this chart. Let me show you what I'm going to do with this chart. With all charts, you have the visual elements that you could adjust. And let's say the story is really highlighting maybe the top departments or the top headcounts, right? Let's say we're talking about sales and marketing, for instance. Talking about sales and marketing, which is the second day. How much people in sales and marketing? It's hard to distinguish, right? We're trying to figure out, okay, where's the headcount here? So let me go to my x-axis, and I'm going to take out the values and take out the title. I don't need to know all that. We simplify our chart. Even with the y-axis, I don't need to have the word division there, so I can take out that title. So we're cleaning it up. Less words, easier to focus, right? I can increase the size of the name of the divisions. Yeah. So it makes it a little more legible, easier to see. Let me see. IT kind of fallen in here, right? So what's something? I could change the width of where I put the name. So you see, I just expanded it. I got IT. I could read everything. Nice. Also with the bars, if I scroll down, I'm seeing the bars. If my focus was, let's say, sales and marketing, one of the storytelling techniques when you're using your dashboard is to make for focus, allow for focus. So I could choose show all. It shows all the bars. I could put a default as a gray color. Let's say this gray, right? And if I want to allow for focus on sales and marketing, I could change that to blue, right? And also I could come, and right now we have no idea what these amounts are, right? So which I could put on data labels. So I am actually seeing the numbers, and let me see how nice they would look inside. Well, not for degree. They're not all effective for degree. So let's leave it outside. Right? And I could even resize them, make them bold or something. So here we are seeing, what do you all think about this chart? Looks better? It makes a little more sense? Maybe a little more legible than what we had before? And what we could change the name to, right? Let's say headcount, right? And then I could come now and we could just format the headers, make it look nice, make it look bold, right? So just comparing what? This is the original. See this? Look at all these things that really not adding value to the chart. Simplicity is always better, right? Simple for focus. And if I just show you here, this is our updated enhanced chart that allows for focus. Maybe part of the story we're trying to tell is about sales and marketing, like the scenario we had earlier, right? So the scenario where we had earlier with all the people leaving, we highlighted sales, and then we could talk about the tenure. We could talk about the 16 people leaving in 23 and how that compares now to the rest of the organization, right? We could highlight a line with regard to exits, the number of exits, or even the tenure for overall for sales. So whenever you're telling a story, your dashboard should be simple. You don't want to put too much. So let's say we want to look at what's the distribution of staff by gender. So check this. We could use a donut. A donut is a really good chart to use, especially when you're looking at things like gender. And we'll say head count by gender. All you have to do is just check the boxes. And look, we have a head count by gender. Right? And of course, we could simplify this and make it look real nice, just like this guy here. Right? Taking out headers, taking out items for the various, like male and female. We don't even need that legend, right? We could put the values right inside these guys here. So like detail labels, you could show what it is. So like the category and percentage, male and female, right? And we could clean it up. Remember I told you all I don't like decimal places and stuff in visuals. So 0. Clean it up. Make it bigger. See that? So this is keeping it simple and it makes it very effective. If that's the question, if these are the kinds of things that your executives are looking for, you have to understand what they are asking for and be able to provide it in a visual way, very simple. You don't want too much more, right? Power BI has a whole bunch of stuff, and I think at some point I'm gonna have a session at some point in the future where we focus only on Power BI for analytics. because building dashboards, creating narratives, and all these things. Um, you know what I'm gonna do for you all? Because we did spend the extra time in the pivot tables and making sure that you all were happy with that. What I will do, I am gonna create a narrative for our scenario, and I'm gonna record it, and I'll share it with you all. So, let me come back. Let me find my slides. Where were my slides? Oh, did I close my slides? I had my slides up somewhere. But within the slides where we highlighted the scenario and the problem we had, oh no, I think it's in this. Right. So you see, with this scenario here, where the head of sales was asking you for investigating the impact of this on the division, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a story and I'm going to record it. So I'm going to walk you all through how I would report to the head of sales and marketing using Power BI. So using the same file and all of the data that we have at our disposal here with the exit data and all these things, I'm going to create a narrative and build a story and show you all how I converted the data I got through analysis into an effective story for the head of sales and marketing. So that's an executive. So I'm going to show you all how I walk through the narrative and how I build it out for them. How that sounding? Good? Consider it a bonus because we spent a little extra time on the pivot table today. Yeah? Yeah, so I'll walk you all through the narrative and I'll explain every step of the way and have it documented so that you could get that as an additional resource as we go forward. Yeah? Guys, you'll see how time does fly when you're having fun, right? Yeah. Yeah, Tamika, it does take practice and it does take time to play around with it. So I'm going to save this file, which is our updated file. I'll save it and I'm going to zip the entire folder. So what I'll do, I'll zip up the whole folder with this file intact and I'll drop it in the folder share, in the Google Drive share, and you all will let me know if it works, right? If you got everything to work. Sounds good? Nice. Seeing some thumbs up flying up there. All right. So tell me, I just spent over 3 hours torturing you all on analytics, how to think about it, the mindset, the metrics, doing some calculations, playing around in Excel, pivot tables, a little touch on Power BI, not as much as I would have wanted, but time does fly when you're having fun. So any key takeaways, any comments on what we've done? What stuck with you the most? What was your biggest takeaway from these hours that we spent doing some analytics work on HR data? What's your biggest takeaway? What will stick with you for a while and resonate with you as you're looking to move forward with your analytics stuff? Well, not extensive, but I could share some of the functions that were used, and of course how I work them out, right? So I could share some of that too. The reminder for the VLOOKUPs will help you with the bonus and merit. Okay. All right. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, thanks, Rika. Yeah, the relevant examples, these are the kinds of things we deal with all the time. And being able to understand your data and work with your data is very important. Getting the answers very quickly. Remember, if you take long to respond, the timeliness of response is very important, yeah? And Excel is an excellent tool. Excel is one of the few tools that could become an expert system, right? And you have it right at your fingertips in the office. Thinking of the information as needed to be, yeah, exactly, Tamika. And of course, keeping it simple because telling them 100 things is not going to help them make the decisions, right? You want to be very clear. You want to be straight. The logical thought process, yes, that is also part of it. You need to think about it holistically, like how does this impact the organization? How these elements connect with each other. So you see, like how we had the exit data with performance data, we could look at those things. You could. I encourage you all. You see that data set I have there? It's really nice. You could play around with the little data model in Excel in the pivot table. You could play around, take a look at how things connected, even investigate that same sales scenario. My question to you, or my challenge to you is check out the people who left. What was their average tenure? Did we lose knowledge? Right? what type of performers were they? Were they excellent performers, or were they people who were underperforming? See what kind of loss was there to the organization for those folks. Now I'm gonna save my Excel sheet, my workbook. So you're gonna get that updated version with all of those pivots running, right? So you'll have some of those pivots already done. Right? Where is it? Oh, I close it off when I open up this file. But you're also gonna get this file as well. Right? How to do the twinning. What was the twinning? Oh, with the multiple tables on the data model. Yeah. But no worries, it takes some getting used to. And watch, feel free, guys, as you're all working on the file. We have the WhatsApp group too. So let me know what you were trying, and you know what was the. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, what Power BI does, it just imports Excel. So like, actually, check this out, right? If I open that file right now, so check this, right? If I open this file right now, let me get it open. Let me show you something. I have this file open right now. Let's say I change some data. Watch this, right? If I change some data, let's say I'm looking for something in 2023. Okay, like this. This 1% in 2023. If I put this as an active, right? Watch this, right? And I save this file. Let's remember who this guy is. 1262, right? Let's remember that number, 1262. I'll fix him after. And I close this file. In Power BI, when I click refresh, watch the numbers here, right? This is a person in 2023, right? If I refresh Power BI, it reconnects to the Excel file and updates, right? It updates the data. So if I click refresh, see, just refreshing, something should change here, right? Let's give it a minute. See all these spinning here, all these updating. What was 1262? He didn't impact 2023 as inactive staff. He should have, right? But any changes that we make to our data in Excel will reflect here in Power BI, right? Let me go back to 1262. Is he active or inactive staff? Right? But basically, they are connected with each other. So once you make changes here, it will impact the overall. This janitor in sanitation, he was hired in 23. Oh, because he didn't have an exit date, it didn't count him in. Like if I had put an exit date and make him inactive, because we didn't really count active staff. We checked everything by date, right? So yeah, that's why he probably didn't update anything. But Excel, once you make the changes in Excel, the Power BI file is connected to it. And what it does, it just refreshes every time. So like how I worked on it live, but if I click refresh while the Excel file is open, it's going to give me an error because you need to close. Yeah, I didn't put end date. That's what went on there, Natasha. So it didn't pick up the fact that this person exited. So it would have changed the exits. It would have put exits as 56 and active employees as 587. Right? So it would have updated if I had put a date in. Right? But Power BI is a really nice tool that you could continue to work in. And as I said, I will share like a half an hour narrative and storytelling. So I could focus on that section and I'll share it with you all so you'll get a good idea of some of the power that you have within this business intelligence software, which is Power BI. But I'm hoping that you all really got some value from these couple of hours. I do enjoy analytics. I do this thing all the time. And, I try to break it down as simple as possible. So thanks so much, guys, for joining me on this journey. And happy to share some more resources as we move forward. Yeah? Look, Francis going and chase my way now.
There's no chasing away. There's nothing else coming up, folks. I just wanted to thank you, Kerron, for hard work in preparing and delivering the content, delivering the session. Folks, please join me in dropping some emojis. And then drop one here. I never heard Kerron for more than a few minutes at a time, so this was a treat. And really understand. And I'm grateful that we could get someone with this level of expertise, not only here in the region, because there's very few people who can operate at this level, but that he's with us, and he's willing to spend time with us and to deliver our course here at KBHR Forum. So big thank you to Kerron. And folks, thanks to you also for showing up and for spending time to expand your skills. Want to remind you that there's a masterclass in January and another one in February. So this is all about deepening skills. As you could see today, it was a quantum leap if you not use Excel in the way that Kerron described. And if you haven't even touched Power BI, this could really feel like a huge jump. And our goal is to take it to a place where you'll be fluent in C-suite language. And what we did today is preparation for you to, when you've done this kind of work, you can go and talk to your CEO and tell him what o'clock a strike, because he has to listen, right? When you've done the work, because there's nobody else doing this kind of analysis in your company. So this is a way to be on a firm footing and to have done the background work that earns you a space, not just at the table to sit, but earns you a place to go lead the conversation and have, CFO and CMO and all the other C-suiters take notice.
Yeah.
So thanks to you all. Thanks again, Kerron. We're going to sign up from here at KBHR Forum. And happy holidays, everyone. And don't forget, there's a whole lot of work between now and the next masterclass. If you're not signed up for it yet, come talk to Dale or I, and we'll get you in.
Yep,
Okay.
definitely. Thanks a
All
lot,
right.
guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.